what makes this game so special. It is so thoroughly thought through.
Everything is thought of.
The world and how it is constructed and why is it weavers that were chosen?
There's a reason for this, people. Yeah.
Every single thing is purposeful. Everything in this game. Every line of dialogue, every choice, everywhere. And it all points to one central thing.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the aim of good storytelling. There is a note that I have to start us off here for this episode of Terranigma that I kind of want to lead off with because there's maybe a little bit of a paradigm shift that I would suggest the audience take. This isn't just for Terranigma, actually. It's also for other Super Nintendo or earlier era games in terms of judging their stories.
Oh, right.
This isn't as true for something like Final Fantasy VI as it is for Terranigma. I think it's very true for Terranigma.
Okay.
But I don't think that you can approach Terranigma in the same way as you would in terms of analyzing its like technical writing and things like that. Any PS1 or later RPG.
Yeah.
We
I'd
have
agree with that.
talked about this at length, but there were heavy restrictions on character count for games before the PlayStation 1. So, not to beat a dead horse, but when we covered Final Fantasy VI, we read that interview where they said the translation for Final Fantasy VI was done, and Ted Woolsey brought it to them, and they said, this is twice as many characters as you're allowed to have.
Yeah.
You have to cut this in half. So you can imagine that the translator's job now is not just to translate the words, it's to just give you the very gist of what's in that text box.
Right.
And how good can your technical writing be when that is the constraint put on you?
Yeah.
Right? So with that being said, I think when judging the storytelling of this game, I don't look at it like I would for many other sort of modern character-driven stories that we're used to in this day and age, right? It's not only is it a character limitation thing, I don't think the game is even written like that to begin with. It's much more similar to a mythopoetic type of story. And by mythopoetic, I mean the type of thing that you would get in ancient Greece.
Sure.
Where they're using more archetypes and symbols, and they're not like getting into every individual scene step by step and like the character, really detailed storytelling. The Bible is probably a similar type of thing.
Absolutely. Especially the beginning books.
Yeah. It's not a story where like we're following step by step the characters through their entire journey.
Right.
You're getting pieces of it and almost summaries, but written in a poetic way.
Right. Yeah, it's poetry.
That sort of uses archetypes and symbols as the art of the storytelling, not character-driven dialogue and like all of these really intricate, smaller details. Right. It's like a wider view of storytelling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Odyssey, the Iliad, these would be examples of that kind of thing.
Which can often be deeper. It can get deeper depending on how you do it. Right now, it feels very surface level, but you're dealing with things that have depth on their own.
Yes.
Right? And that aren't necessarily made explicit through the text.
Yes.
But that you can see and experience the depth of it, despite the fact that the text feels maybe a little more surface level.
Right. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that Terranigma is the Iliad or the Odyssey. Or
those are long poems, by the way.
I am not saying it's like a story that is like on that level of excellence. What I am saying is there are similarities to the way in which they go about telling this story that feel more similar to that structure than to something that has come out recently that translates really well to film and a TV series like The Last of Us or something.
Oh, sure.
It's not like that. Not only because of text limits, but because the story was designed differently than that.
Oh,
it's much more mythopoetic in that sense. So that is the way I approach this game on thinking about how to analyze it.
Very good.
One of the things I wrote here that I love about how limited the text is in Terranigma is that it forces the writers to be highly efficient with the words that they choose. The dialogue is snappy, and it spends most of its time foreshadowing or setting up important things rather than filling in details about the world or about this person's daily life or that sort of thing. If you are a fan of I keep calling it the Trails of, but it's not that. It's the Legend of Heroes series.
Okay.
Those games are filled, or Persona would be another example.
Yes.
Filled with dialogue, filled with
Yeah,
so much dialogue. And those are meant to be sort of simulation,
Sure.
at least
Like
an
life.
element of simulation genre, slice of life type thing. Right. So that's
Where
appropriate.
a lot
for
of the
that.
text may be superfluous. It
Right.
may not be that relevant, but you're supposed to read it all and then kind of figure it out later as to
Yes.
like what's more meaningful or not. They just don't have the space to do that
Right.
here.
So, you know, what I like about games from this era is that because they were so limited, the dialogue, if it's well done, which I think it is in this game, is really highly efficient.
Right.
And they're using that space for setting up stuff in the story.
Right.
So all of it's important, and all of it you should pay attention to.
Yeah.
There's almost none of it that is superfluous. And I really like that personally.
me too.
That's just a personal taste thing of mine. I like dialogue that does that. And so I am a fan of the writing in this game, though I am willing to admit that text limitations and some of the things we're talking about, maybe it's not the strongest dialogue of all time.
Yeah.
But I do think it's efficient, and I do think the mythopoetic style of the story makes it appropriate.
Okay, very good.
So that's what I wanted to start off.
This kind of reminds me just of the idea of low resolution pixel art kind of stuff anyways,
Yeah.
which is that there are abstractions that are meant to represent things that seem low resolution, but you are supposed to use your imagination a little bit when playing games like this.
Yeah.
And Terranigma takes advantage of that and assumes that maybe you're going to fill in some stuff, and that when you see a very brief conversation happening, that you understand that maybe they probably actually said more stuff than that. But that's the gist that you needed to know in order to continue on the game.
Exactly. So why don't we start with the little intro movie that plays before the start screen? It starts with the planet possessed two souls, an external face and an internal face, light side and dark side. And that image that accompanies that is the sun rising. You're kind of like high in orbit of a dead planet.
Yes.
And it could be
red.
rising or it could be setting, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Then 46 billion years ago, and I think this could really be 46, not a typo
number.
of 4.6, which is about the age of our actual planet. I'm just going to say
I didn't even think that it could have been a typo.
Yeah.
I just assumed 46.
Because it's 4.6 and it's 4.6 and it's close, I could see where, and I think Beardmo brought this up while I was doing the stream for it.
That would make sense.
Perhaps it was a typo. I'm saying, not to spoil anything beyond that,
it could
actually be 46 billion years.
And our sun did not turn into a red giant. Just throw that physics stuff.
We talked about that too, but we'll get into that later.
Assuming the solar system is how it is, it could be that much time. Yeah.
I will account for all of that later. Okay. 46 billion years since the planet's birth, growth and decline circled two wills.
Right.
And this text appears, now we're closer to the surface of the planet. It's a dead planet, dead landscape, mountainous landscape. Then we get the text, at the will of light side, new life is born. At the will of dark side, ice ages descend. This text appears over a cave painting of a cattle or a bull.
I believe these paintings are in France somewhere, but this is like some of the
real
oldest.
Thing.
Yeah. These are some of the oldest cave paintings ever discovered.
Right.
Yeah.
Light side wills intelligent beings. That appears with a painting of a ship on the seas. Rapid progress takes root. Now, this text appears over in kind of an old-timey photograph.
Like a Wright brothers.
Of a primitive airplane, Wright brothers era, airplane. Dark side's will breeds fear and disharmony. They came to be called God and Devil. And this text appears over a film reel depicting smokestacks of some kind of energy plant or something like that. You can see the distortion, the heat wave distortion.
Oh, is that what that was supposed to be?
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, I didn't. I couldn't tell.
It looks like smokestacks, like an energy plant polluting the air.
Okay. I can get that.
Then we have the hands of a clock kind of going through this whole thing, right? It's sort of counting. And then the hands of that clock fall apart.
Yeah.
It sort of changes from the 12 numbers that it makes room for a 13.
A 13th number, yeah.
And then that turns into the world. You see the earth sort of like takes the place of, so the clock is like a little circular clock, and it's the same.
Yeah. It's like a pocket
that
watch.
gets filled in with the earth.
Yes. There's a juxtaposition there, where the earth is.
And you kind of zoom into the earth. And then you get the title sequence. So the start screen with and the image there is Ark standing on top of one of the 5 towers of the underside, whatever you want to call it. So that's the opening.
Okay,
movie.
I was wondering. So that's what that image is for the start screen.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that in a lot more depth here in a moment.
Okay, good.
If you pause on that screen, you don't press start, right? You just leave it alone. You'll see a scene where 5 souls enter into a vortex and fly through this underworld and then arrive at each of these 5 towers.
The towers.
There's 5 souls, and each of them arrive at one of the 5. And then you see Ark running around causing mischief in the village.
Just screwing around, jumping with the kids.
He scares the chickens and chases one of them into the weaver's house, which is what leads to being asked to apologize at the beginning of the game. And then he goes and jumps and plays with the kids and goes around being himself and then goes home. Yeah. So that is the intro movie. So let's step back and sort of like get into more depth on what this is all about.
Yeah, let's talk about this. So at the very beginning, you have a black screen with a heartbeat, and this is when you're seeing like Enix and just the company names kind of just showing up. And there's a beat to when you see the planet in a blood red. I didn't even think it could be 4.6. That's so funny. I just took it at its word.
At face value.
The planet is blood red, and you can't tell whether the sun is setting or rising, right?
Right.
There's a duality to sunsets and sunrises, first of all. Second of all, there's also duality to the concept of blood. It can refer to death. It can also, in the terms of women's reproductive cycles, can also actually lead to fertility and lead to life. So the idea of a planet covered in blood could mean either death or the possibility of birth happening soon after it, something like that, right? And then, of course, we get the whole process, all the words about life and the cycle on these opposing things, right? But the clock is probably the biggest symbolic moment of this whole thing, and it's wild because the hour and minute hands are like up top, right, at the 12, and then the second hand finally makes it all the way around. I think like 2 minutes pass, and then it's there. And that's when everything stops. That's when it all falls off, right? The hands fall off, which means the energy behind the progression of time has ceased, right? So time is no longer moving necessarily. It has stopped, but it has stopped at a specific place, which then becomes the 13, right? So it stops, everything falls off, and 13 takes place where it stopped. So 13... This is funny. To quote the game just a little bit later in some out of context that I think is hilarious, the idea of a 13th hour is illogical. All caps, illogical.
Yes.
That is a big part of this game.
It's huge.
Is the idea that what is happening here, this is illogical.
A time that shouldn't exist.
Yes, you're supposed to think that. You're supposed to think that. The number 13, it's not a coincidence that it's the number 13 either. There's lots of reasons for this, but in particular in the West, the number 13 is unlucky. It's a bad number. It's I think when Judas betrays Jesus, he's the 13th person to show up like with the group. And then this also goes back to Norse mythology. There's Loki. When Balder is killed, Loki is the 13th person to show up to the feast, and that results in Balder dying. So anyways, there's a connection in the Norse mythology as well as the Bible where like 13 is an unlucky number. So not only does the cycle of time stop, but there's almost the breaking of a cycle. And I also want to use a little bit of a biblical analogy for this as well. When Christ resurrects in the New Testament, they call it the 8th day. And then he rose on the 8th day. That illogical. It's the first day. Like, well, that doesn't make sense. Now, the reason why you would posit something like that is to say that, oh, your cycle of 7 has been broken, right? That there's something new that just happened here. You've been doing a 7-day thing for thousands of years. We're gonna go to 8 now. You've been counting 1 through 7 for your entire life. No one's ever counted to 8 before. Boom, we're counting to 8, right? And this changes the whole paradigm, right? Oh, everything's different now. Now the cycle's different, and it changes, your outlook on everything else. This is kind of doing that. It's like your 12-hour day has just passed 12 and it's in 13 now. Not just that it passed 12 and it's in 13, but that and the clock's broken now and it's stuck at essentially 13. Time compression from Final Fantasy VIII and all that stuff. It's all relevant right here with the clock, and we'll probably just come back to this later on because the analogy here of the clock is something that's going to be relevant throughout the entire game. And I hope we remember to always come back and remember what happened with that clock, especially as you get confused in Chapter 3 about what's going on.
Yeah, I actually think this is really important to hammer home. Another thing that anyone who has grown up in religious circles or done research into this sort of thing, particularly people who believe that we're kind of in the last times or the end days.
Yeah.
The analogy they use there is also a clock. We're in the 11th hour.
Oh, yeah, the doomsday clock.
Yeah.
That's right.
We are in the 11th hour,
yes,
right?
Yes,
we're coming to the end of the world's cycle.
Right.
So
they keep
the
updating
clock
it.
is reaching that 12th hour.
Yes, this is a good point.
And we are shown a dead world at the beginning.
Right.
In fact, we're shown almost an entire progression of that world's life.
Yeah, that's true.
And the clock is counting through that.
Right.
So we're going over
you hear the
cave
ticking.
paintings, and the clock is turning. We come to a painting, like a painting of a ship, clock is turning.
Right,
Come to a photograph of, the Wright brothers and their plane.
Yes.
Clock is ticking. Come to more of a modern age, clock is getting closer, and then it reaches the 12th hour.
The doomsday time.
And that's when the cycle should start again. We should start counting into the new cycle.
Right.
But the clock breaks.
The clock breaks.
And a 13th hour is added. Something unnatural
and illogical
has happened here.
Yeah.
That has broken what should have happened there.
Yes.
Right?
That is specifically, and it's not just it's the fact that it broke at the pinnacle.
Yes.
That's also very important. At the top of the cycle, right?
Yes.
If you're going to take a day-night cycle with the sun moving around, it's day. This is like high noon, right? This is like the top, right?
Yeah.
When things are, and well, I guess it could
be midnight, meaning coming
Once
into
again,
the next day.
The duality, AM and PM.
It could be either or.
Right, it could be either or. But it broke at the top, not at the bottom, right? It broke at the pinnacle. So that's just important to understand.
Yeah.
And then you're right. There's something unnatural is happening.
Because again, talking about the duality of the sunrise and sunset, and can it be one or the other? It's both. Like we've been talking about with the Kybalion. It is the same thing experienced at different degrees.
Different perspectives.
And it's in a cycle. Yeah. This is a game from Asia, and a lot of Asian philosophy is all based in the wheel of samsara.
Yes, very common.
And this sort of cycle of life and rebirth. And so this is very common in that culture.
Not to mention when the sun is setting in America, it is rising in Japan.
Right.
That's just
exactly.
That's how suns work.
Exactly. So I also thought it was really interesting.
One more. It's not just unnatural. It's not just illogical. It is an enigma. That is such a hard word. It is an enigma, right? We are at an enigmatic moment.
Correct.
This is an enigmatic
This is
moment.
why the game is called Terranigma.
Terranigma, which once again, as you mentioned before, as soon as this clock is, the hands fall off and the 13 number shows up, it fades into the earth the exact same size. It is 1 for 1.
Yes.
This is almost like a 2001 Space Odyssey, like a juxtaposition between throwing the bone up and then it becomes a space station. That clock becomes Earth, right?
Yes.
The fact that these images meld together like this is saying something,
yes.
right? Apply everything that you just saw on that clock now to this planet that we're looking at.
Exactly. I loved how it's not just the clock itself, kind of turning as you're seeing those different scenes, right? Which suggests a time passing, the world's life and time passing.
Sure. Yes.
Not only that, but the media of each image it also sort of suggests this progression of
Okay.
time. Cave painting.
That's actually really cool.
To an actual painting, to a photograph, to a film.
Yeah,
reel.
very interesting. That's
Right?
animating, right? Because you
Yes.
see the waves.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
very good.
And so
This is very
you're
good. I
seeing
didn't
in
pick this
the
up.
mediums of the images, they're also
Yeah.
progressing through time.
Well, this is wild because
Yeah.
once again, we're talking about this is really, you know what? You just opened a whole box in my mind. This is so cool because I didn't know how to connect this. The fact that we're experiencing this in a video game is relevant.
Yes.
It's relevant even within the game, and we'll talk about this maybe later in chapter 3, how relevant and fourth wall breaking what this game can be. But we move into the village later on, and there's weavers that are weaving, right?
Right.
They are using strings to weave pictures.
Yes.
The word string is also a programmatic term. It's
Right.
part of code, right? You put strings together in code to weave a video game together, something like that. I almost think that in that natural progression, you can also insert the video game that you're playing as a natural progression after the film as well.
100%.
And just to be like, you're here. You're basically like, we might be in the 13th hour, right? Like, this is just how it's all going. Like, boom, 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 boom. It's progressing all the way up here. Oh, and he didn't mention video games, which is funny because you're playing one.
Yeah.
And he might mention it later.
Yeah. We have Lonnie here in the chat. In modern timekeeping, it's simply 1 p.m., but in certain astronomical contexts, it can relate to a specific celestial observation or event.
It didn't just move. The 13th didn't take the place of the 1. The 13th squished everything aside and took the place at the pinnacle.
Of it, yeah.
So it's not exactly this that you're talking about, but that is interesting. What you're talking about here has more relevance to like Jesus resurrected on the 8th day, but it's like, no, it's just this Sunday. It's just the first day, right? It's just the first day again. But you say the 8th day.
We're calling it 8 to signify this is a new thing.
This is a whole new thing. And to really hammer in the newness, everything stops.
Right.
So.
Okay. Now, I'll hold off on this for a minute, but I am really going to get into the key art image that they use for the start screen.
Yeah, that's my next note.
I'm going to talk about that
by this.
after the Village of Crysta section,
Okay,
when you
fair
actually leave the village.
Okay.
That's when I'm going to get into that part.
Right, let me put a mark on my note.
So we'll return to that shortly. Okay, so then we have the title of Chapter 1 comes on the screen. Chapter 1 is called The Outset.
The Outset.
And that's what we're going to be covering in today's analysis is Chapter 1. So it starts off with L waking Ark up. This is very Chrono Trigger-esque. In fact, something that Heon pointed out is that this is essentially an inverse of Chrono's bedroom in Chrono
really?
Trigger. Chrono's bed is on the other side of the room.
Oh, that's funny.
And so it's almost a reverse.
They also have that
Chrono
weird,
Trigger.
like, or is it a fishbowl? In his room, is it a fishbowl or is it that weird, like, balance?
Yeah, it looks like a
ticking-
fishbowl to me.
Okay,
The
okay.
little goldfish inside. That's what it looks like.
I think that's what it is.
I think so
don't
too.
know. I don't
I
know.
think you're right about that. Okay. But L, I'm going to call her L. It might be L-E, but
That's fine.
I'm going to call her L.
I didn't look the Japanese.
So
This
L
is another
comes
thing
in.
that's unfortunate. I looked as hard as I could for the Japanese script. It is not easy to find if it exists at all on the internet. A full script
like
in
somebody
Japanese.
who had transcribed
Yeah.
it.
Not even
Because you could probably get the Japanese copy of the game.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can. But when I'm just trying to quickly look up,
Right,
what is this in
right.
the Japanese script? There are gameplays on YouTube of it in Japanese. I would have to do that. It just takes longer to do.
Takes way longer.
I would much rather just have a script pulled up, but I can't find one. If any of you,
If
know
anybody
where I
has
can get
that,
one.
hit up Kaysen and get us a copy of that. So she wakes Ark up, similarly to Chrono's mom waking him up at the beginning of Chrono Trigger, right? I wrote every good SNES JRPG needs to begin with the protagonist lazy,
Yes,
sleeping
he's lazy,
in.
sleeping in. Yep,
He's
absolutely.
being woken up by somebody. Hey, get up. You're being too freaking lazy. All the text from the NPCs in this first house where you start, all of them have really important things to say for
Yes.
setting things up.
Yes, they do.
All of it's important.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I was talking about earlier with all the dialogues very efficient.
Yeah, they're not wasting characters here.
It's a great example of how to write the first lines of dialogue in a game. So if you are writing a game, study how Terranigma does dialogue in its the first dialogue, the first words it chooses to share with the audience. are all really important. So Ark is having this recurring dream every night, right? He mentions this to Elle. And Elle says that crystal blue is in the air.
Yes.
And the first 3 times, which is every time you're in this house that this comes up, the term crystal blue is in a yellow or gold text.
Right.
This is very much like Zelda, where they'll have highlighted text that's important to remember.
Important, yeah.
The difference being, in Zelda, they're saying, press Z to target me, or whatever. I guess they do also say things like the Great Deku Tree, or
things like that.
the Sapphire Stone, or things like that are story important things to remember. But here, Elle mentions crystal blue. That's in gold. Then you have the guy in the next room who says, the elder told me something before. He said, crystal blue are the tears of the outside world. I wonder what he meant. And then another person in this, I want to go outside to see crystal blue, but the guys tell me I'll go blind if I see it. Ark, can you go check on it for me? So 3 times that term is in a highlighted color. It's very important to pay attention to it. They really want you to understand crystal blue is important.
Crystal blue.
So keep that in mind. We also have some other dialogue in here. Yo, Ark, Ellie wake you up, or Elle wake you up? Woohoo, the hot couple. You got a good, Ark. I wish Elle would come wake me up. What's up, Ark? Elle wake you up again? You should be ashamed. So I wanted to talk about this briefly. I can't tell. Again, I don't know if this is a English character limit problem.
Yeah.
We don't have the Japanese to compare. I don't know if this is meant to be an innuendo, or if they're just really innocent people in this little village, and they're being woken up by a cute girl. Oh, wow. That's so cool, and you should be ashamed because you're so lazy and you made her come over.
Right.
Or if this is their winking and nudging, it's something more than just that. I don't know. Either way, they're teasing him about it, and it is what it is. I heard you ruined everything over at the Weavers, then went and swiped all the pumpkins in the garden. You sure never give up. I like that line a lot. That was the other part of the intro movie I didn't mention. So not only does he chase the chicken into the Weaver's house, he goes and just like takes pumpkins and cabbages out of the ground.
That's right. He just
throws them in the river or destroys them in some other way. He's just being a butthole.
Yes.
To a bunch of people, but not the kids.
That's right. He's fun. He's good with kids.
This is a line I took down. I'll get to in a minute. But kids like him. Adults hate him. One of the guys mentions the blue door that's in the elder's house here, right? And how he gets a spooky feeling every time he walks past it, like someone is calling his name. And if you walk past it, you'll hear, someone help.
Yeah.
Now, it is probably also important that door is blue.
Oh, absolutely.
And they keep saying this term, crystal blue.
Yeah, blue is
right.
His
So
reference.
blue and crystals are an important motif here.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
And when they say crystal blue, it appears they're referring to these bubbles that are out floating everywhere. They aren't necessarily blue. They are all different colors.
But they are reflective.
Yes, they are.
There's a big element of reflectiveness that is mentioned a lot here. And
sometimes people can
not only
see
reflective,
stuff.
It's not necessarily reflective of what's around you.
Right.
It's reflecting
something else.
Right? But there's a motif of reflection, crystal, and this blue color. All a very big part symbolically of what's going on here, kind of pointing you towards mysteries, right?
And then there's the blue door. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the elder confronts Ark about ruining all the weavings over at the Weaver's place. You can either make an excuse and blame the chickens for it, like, oh, it wasn't my fault. The chickens were the ones who did it, which is, I suppose, technically true, right? But he's trying to weasel out of it.
Yeah.
Or you can apologize, and he says, well, if that's how you feel, go over there and say the same to the Weaver.
Right.
Or you can try to make an excuse, and he yells at you, stop making excuses, take responsibility, and get over there. Now, I wanted to touch on this really quick. In the interview that we briefly touched on last week, where Yuji Horii and Miyazaki were both interviewed for it. So Miyazaki, the director of this game, Yuji Horii, the director of Dragon Quest, the series, and creator of that series. They talked about briefly in that protagonists being silent or speaking.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yuji Horii is a very big proponent of protagonists need to be silent.
Yeah.
And they need to never speak. They are the avatar of the player, and they should not have a personality. The player should express their personality. This is more of a very true role-playing sort of ideology or philosophy behind designing games. I do not fall here or there on that debate, though I do know that there are people who do. Some people are very against silent protagonists. They never want to have one. They don't like it. Others really like it. I think it can work depending on the game you're making. I don't think there's even a need to take a side in this. But one thing that Miyazaki said in the interview was Ark does speak in the game, and we wanted him to have a personality, but we wanted to make sure that at certain key moments, the player got to make some decisions as to what kind of character this is. Well, and this is a great example of that.
Okay.
You can either be apologetic and say, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, I'm sorry. And the elder will talk to you very differently if you do that.
Right.
They say, well, if you feel that way, if that's, you think it's an honest mistake, just go make up for it and do your best. If you don't, and you say, no, it was the chicken's fault, he'll yell at you, right? And I love this because I, in my personal experience with Terranigma, love to see the evolution of Ark's character from being a purposefully mischievous kid into a hero. Yeah. So I make the choices that make him a punk in the beginning and love to see the change in that character over the course of the game. So, but you don't have to.
That's a personal thing. Do any of these choices affect the game outcomes?
Not necessarily the outcomes. But it will paint Ark a little bit different as a character.
Just in your mind as the player.
Yeah, and another example of that is when you return from the Weaver's house after having apologized, and all the dudes are trying to open the blue door, and the elder said, no, we should never do this. Yeah. You have a choice there.
Right.
You have a choice to just go break through the thing, or you can tell them, no,
right.
I don't think we should be doing that.
Right.
And that plays out differently depending on what you do. So what did you do? Did you break the door?
Yes.
I did too.
Yeah.
On my first playthrough. And I assume most people did.
I had a similar thing to you, except, I kind of did it both ways. Sometimes I was a punk, sometimes I wasn't. Yeah. In terms of the door, I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's open.
He's trying to be more like the character. But when I went to apologize for the chickens, I took ownership and all that stuff. Yes. I think they let you kind of select that stuff as well.
There you can say apologize or leave.
Yeah. I don't even know what happens. I just apologized.
I apologized too.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, you could just walk away, I guess.
Right.
But I don't know if you could then advance the game or if it's a trigger.
You have to do
to
it.
where you have to kind of apologize.
Yes,
because you can, again, the text there it's a little basic, but you could read that. The Ark's response is being not like a genuine apology. It sounds a little bit like, well, I was kind of thinking maybe I did a bad thing before.
Yes. Well, Warukata, that it's funny because if you translate Warukata directly, it means I was bad or I did something bad. But the real way that it is meant in Japanese is I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right. That is it's indirect, but that's just Japanese is often indirect.
Oh,
in the way
sure.
And so that was a very literal translation to say I thought I did a bad thing. But
I love how. Okay,
but the word in Japanese does mean I know it's an anime thing.
I love how you did this when you did that. That's
it's an anime thing.
That's a Japanese mannerism too.
Yes.
To show embarrassment.
I'm embarrassed.
To show embarrassment, to put your hand behind your head like this. Yeah. You'll see that a lot in Final Fantasy VII, where Cloud will kind of reach back here and do this kind of thing. You see it a lot
when
in
he gets
anime.
a little embarrassed.
So that's a
shy.
Japanese mannerism that means I'm embarrassed or I'm feeling timid or something like that.
And you're expressing that feeling. If I were to be translating it, I would have translated it as I'm sorry. Yeah. But they're kind of, I guess they're trying to show that Ark is really not good at this. And so he's saying it in the English. He's going about it in a weird, odd way. He doesn't apologize often, it sounds. And especially from the Weaver lady's reaction. Like, what? Did I just hear a genuine apology from you? I'm shocked. You know? It's like, well, it's the new me, I guess. Yeah, right. But, you could read it both ways.
Yeah. So yeah, once you're done apologizing there's a couple other things you can do that are kind of fun. So again, there are more choices you can make. So you can go in the mill. Yeah. And
you can turn off his
I love that the miller, is that what you'd call him? Is like basically impatient and kind of rude right off the bat.
Yeah.
What am I doing? What does it look like I'm doing? I'm
Right.
working this mill. Like,
Right.
if you don't have business here, like, get the fetch out. Like, he's just, dismissive. And so there's an element where all of these adults are always mad at Ark. They're kind of yelling at him.
They expect certain things
And
from him.
what you can do is you can go downstairs in the mill and you can turn the mill off. I don't know if you did this.
Yes, and you go and talk to him, and he's like,
It's like, what happened? How did the mill stop working?
Yeah.
Right? Another
I did do
way.
this, yeah.
And that's how I responded to his
To him being a jerk.
kind of,
Okay.
condescending
So
tone.
there's
right?
some of this that's like a self-fulfilling prophecy
Yes,
almost. Like
right.
they think he's bad, therefore they treat him bad, therefore he acts bad, therefore they think he's bad. It's
Yes.
just this, once again, cycle. It's a cycle that
Yes.
has no end to it. It will go on forever unless something changes.
Yes. And I have noticed this a lot with children. I won't say who. I don't want to like call any parents out or anything like that. But kids who maybe have hyperactive disorder, right?
Yeah.
They can be a little rambunctious and a little hard to control. And I think it's what happens too often is that parents vent their frustration on the child, and it creates this cycle you're talking about.
Right.
They're not
They feel like that's just who
acting
they
out.
are.
They're just a kid, and they're a kid with a disorder.
Right.
And instead of being understanding of that, which I'm not like, I know it's hard. I'm not trying to say it's not. I'm not trying to say it's easy.
You're describing my oldest son right now, and yeah, it's rough. It's rough. And I've heard him say on occasion, I have heard him say, "Oh, I'm bad. My sister's good, but I'm bad." Right?
Yes,
and I'm like, no,
that's-
don't.
that's
And whenever
what
I
I'm
hear
talking
that,
about.
I think, oh, I'm doing something wrong.
Yes.
I need. Because it's not always just the parent, but the parent should be helping the child to realize or to help him understand that you aren't bad
Yes.
because you are bored and don't know what to do and break things
Yes.
a lot. It doesn't mean you're bad.
Yes.
And so whenever I hear him say that, I pull back as a parent. I double check, how am I disciplining? What am I doing right? I'll talk to my wife. I'll be like, hey, he feels like he's bad. Like, or are we being too aggressive with him with discipline and whatnot? And, well, he threw such and such on the floor, and I know, but I'm often the disciplinarian, right? So I will just slow down, and then I will notice throughout the next little while that when my son does something wrong and I take a deep breath instead of, addressing it immediately, that there's like a wave of relief that goes over him. That's just like, oh, okay, Dad's not going to yell at me. He's just going to give me a hug. Everything's okay. But gosh, like, it is hard. It is really hard.
It's really hard.
But you have to do it. Otherwise, your child will end up expecting to be bad and you expecting him to be bad. And then it's just bad for everybody.
Yeah. And so this is the vibe I get from Ark's relationship with the adults of this.
Except the fisherman. The fisherman's pretty cool. He's like, hey, come here, fisherman.
Because on top of the miller and the weaver and the elder, there's another house you can go into, and there's a mother in there who says, Ark, can you please stop teaching my children all these bad behaviors?
I remember this,
Like, please stop. And even the woman who's like the cook in the house in the elder's house, she this is brilliant. I love this
because you eat the food, right?
Well, no, she asks you to bring. Can you bring that vase over here really quick? Now, this is a tutorial to teach you about picking up vases.
Yes,
you cannot set a vase down.
You have to throw it and break it.
You cannot hand it over. Your only choice is to throw that thing, and it's going to break.
I thought the same thing. I was like,
you up.
I was upset at first. I was like, but did I push the wrong button? Like,
yes, they set you up for this.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's to suggest Ark's personality.
Yeah.
You could interpret that as it slipped and it broke.
Sure.
He was running too fast and it fell.
Yeah.
Or you could interpret it as he just threw it to be a
wave
butthole.
of mischief washed over him, and he just.
And the reaction is, now you can go hungry today.
Right.
Heavy discipline.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is you can then walk over to the table and eat the apples.
Yeah, you just eat it.
It's just like, I saw that, what I put up with. But my point is, they set up all of these scenarios where the elders, the adults in the town, in the village, yell at you, are frustrated with you.
Yeah.
And that if that's how you are reacting to a child who has very likely, because it's very common, ADHD, maybe some undiagnosed autism, or maybe high functioning, and so like you wouldn't have thought that is what it is. I've seen this happening. I've seen this kind of discipline, this kind of frustration, And it actually, it makes me angry every time I see it.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to sit here and like come down on these parents who I've witnessed talking to their children this way. Because I don't have children, and I understand it's hard.
Right.
And I also understand I haven't gone through it personally. So I don't want to like, on a sort of more macro level, do the same thing to them.
Right.
In terms of like yelling at them about their parenting style.
Right.
But I do want to say that I find it really sad when I see it happening because this is a cycle you're creating in the child's behavior.
Yeah.
They're not meant to, maybe you don't want them consciously to feel that, but what you are doing is instilling in them they are a bad child.
You're giving them a role.
Yes.
This is a big thing actually within families. I've noticed this a lot, but that everyone plays a role in a family, and things get weird when the people don't fulfill the role that they're expected to fill.
Yeah.
Right? This happens all the time. I can think of a million examples, but it's common. And you don't want to give someone a role that is you're the one who breaks things, and then we yell at you, and that's how our family works.
Yes.
Right? You don't want to assign them that role if you can help.
Because if you do, that's the role they'll take.
Exactly. Because it's like, well, it's just who I am.
That's the
kids
role
don't know who they
Ark
are.
has taken.
Right, yeah.
He's going around picking up pumpkins and destroying them because the elders and adults assigned him that role. You are a bad, mischievous child. Okay.
Right.
And he goes around doing it because that's where he gets the attention.
And at first I was thinking, well, we're the bad ones and no one else is bad. But then those kids are just like, hey, the elder's out. Let's sneak into the room we're not supposed to go in. All the other kids are like this. Maybe they're more tactful.
Yeah.
Because especially when they start...
They have a scapegoat.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they'll leave and they'll be like, well, Ark, you're the one that broke it. So this is your fault. And then they leave and it's like, Ark's going to get yelled at for this. Everyone was in on it, but he's the one who's going to get in trouble. Those other kids aren't getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And once again, that's just the story of Ark's life, right?
Yeah.
He's not the only bad one, but it kind of feels that way.
So another reason why I love this story so much is because that is the role of the main character. They put a kid in there who has been assigned the role of the mischievous bad child, the black sheep of the village.
Yeah.
Who, when given purpose, when given a focus, is a hero.
Right.
Is so capable of incredible things. The metaphor there, I think, is really important for parents to understand. That child who you are constantly like frustrated with, the potential they have in this world is incredible. If you don't assign them the villain role, and they think that that's all they're good for in this world,
right?
It's on you to give them that purpose and focus and to make it productive. And that's what you signed up for when you had this child. Right. So do your job.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's one thing I really love about this character.
Yeah, he's great. This is something that we kind of skipped over, but his dream, when he wakes up, he's like, oh, I was having... Well, no, she actually brings it up because Ellie says, you look like you were having a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then this is so interesting because I don't know what this means yet. I might need your help a little bit here. Okay. But it is heavily hinted at throughout this chapter that no one ever leaves this village.
No, they don't.
That this village just exists, and it day in and day out, it's the same thing. Everything is just the same. It's always the same. Things don't change, and nobody ever leaves, and it's a cycle that just goes on forever. And so then Ark says, oh, I've been having this dream, the same dream day in and day out is what Ark says. And Ellie says, I never thought I would hear you say something like that. I don't know what that means. I don't know what Ellie means when she says that. The fact that she thought it was a nightmare, but then he says, no, it's a dream. It's just the same dream. And I don't like dreaming the same dream over and over and over. I want something new. And this is the way I'm interpreting it, at least, is that she's saying it looks like every nightmare. He's like, yeah, but to you, it's probably paradise because it's just everything's normal and fine all the time, forever, always, and nothing ever happens. And then she's like shocked, like, oh, why are you saying that? Do you want something other than what this village has to offer you? That's the way I'm interpreting this.
I think that's great.
Is that valid? Is this, you know a little more about this than me?
Without getting into stuff that we don't want to get into yet in terms of spoilers, I think we can return to this.
Okay.
Because there is something very interesting there to delve into a little further.
Sure.
But that's, again, the dualistic nature of a lot of this dialogue in the beginning is on the surface, it can come off as what you would read it on the surface. I didn't expect you, this troublemaking, kind of like hyperactive kid, to have a deeper level thought like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I didn't expect you to say that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's not normal for you, Ark.
Right.
Right? So there's that element to it, but there is a deeper side to that too, which, again, everything in this game is foreshadowed and set up.
Very intentional.
There's nothing here that was like not thought through.
Yeah, including the fact that Ark woke up from a dream.
Yeah.
That's important, and we'll talk about it later.
There's some dialogue that I want to touch on here. Again, not to explain it, but to emphasize it for future payoffs. So there's a girl in the village who says, Mom said boys and girls are bound by a promise from an earlier life. Ark, were you and Elle friends from the past?
I like that. This is heavy East Asian influence here.
Yes.
Every Korean drama has some form of like, or did we know each other in our previous life? And it's almost like a pickup line, like a cheap little pickup line. It's just fun. It's fun.
There's a guy standing next to a pool of water who says, sometimes I've seen what looks like a town in this pool.
Yeah.
I wonder what it is.
Right.
So we talked about reflections.
Yes, reflections. But upside down. When you look at a reflection, especially in a pond, you're seeing things upside down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a reflection, but the man looking into the pond is not seeing his own reflection. It's not like
he even says that, right? He's like, I don't even see myself, but I'm seeing something.
But they are seeing a reflection of some other place.
Yeah.
And that's also in the crystal blue bubbles.
Yes, they're seeing reflections of other things.
So they are seeing reflections, but reflections of other places. And it's a big theme of this whole underworld, this reflection thing.
Yes, yeah.
Another boy says, I'm not allowed to go out today because crystal blue is flying.
Yeah.
A girl, sniffle, sniff. Oh, Ark, I had this really scary dream. I dreamt that everyone turns into ice. Snuff, sniffle. What am I? Okay, that's the miller. We went over that. And there's a guy inside of the mill.
Oh, yeah.
I've been getting this weird feeling, like I worked like this long ago.
Yeah, he just enjoys.
Yeah. You can laugh if you want. And then he kind of sighs. So he's troubled about it.
Interesting.
He's thinking deeply about this. I have this weird deja vu feeling, like I've worked like this before. Elle's weavings are endowed with a special power of evoking happiness.
Yes.
I want to become an artisan weaver like Elle someday.
Also, after we apologize to the woman for ruining all of the weavings, she gives us a little information. Like, just so you know, we pour our souls into these weavings, right? These girls who are learning to weave, Elle, who's already a master weaver, and this woman, I guess, who is kind of in charge of the weaving house. So she's like the mistress of the operation, maybe. Like, what they're doing is they're pouring their souls into their work, right? Which is a common thing to say, but it may have a deeper meaning here as well. Yeah. And then Elle is a master weaver.
Yes.
But what's really funny is that the woman says, don't repeat that foolishness again. It's just an interesting thing to say. But then also Elle says the same thing too. And it's like, of all these people, Elle's on our side, right? Like and she is. But there's a part of her, there's a part of her that she says, tone down the mischief is what Elle says.
Yes.
Hey, Ark, would you ever consider toning down the mischief just a little? Yeah. Like this is, I'm assuming girlfriend maybe. I don't know.
So they are teenagers. I looked this up in the manual, the game's manual, which is pretty fun. Everyone should look it up, a PDF for it.
I should too.
But he is a teenage age, so he's not like an 8-year-old. So you could look at this as a budding romance between the two. Clearly meant to be that.
Okay.
For, at least 13, maybe 15, 16-year-old kid.
But she is nervous about all of his antics as well, right?
Yeah.
She likes him. She might even like him because he's mischievous. But
that's very true.
There's stuff going on there with relationships are complicated. But at the same time, she also wants some respect.
Yes.
in the village. And, I like you a lot, but hey, how about you stop just breaking things and screwing around? And it could be maybe that destroying the weavings was a bit of a slight to her, right? It's like that was too close to home. Like your mischief is seeping into my realm now, and can you put it back into your house?
Which he does immediately.
Yes, that's true. Breaking the door open. Oh man.
There's the farmer guy with the crops. I wonder what crystal blue is. Is it harmful to my crops? Something to think about.
So this thing that happens often, some of the kids don't even know if they can go outside or not because they might be allergic to the crystal blue. And then there's people who are wondering, this phenomena seems to happen regularly. They have a name for it. It's a common thing. People know what it is, but they don't know anything about it. Yeah. They have no clue what's happening. Is it harmful? Is it dangerous? Is it going to hurt the food? Like, what am I seeing? Like, all of this stuff is
mystery.
Not understood at all.
Yeah, big mystery to the people here. Ark, hey, look, you can see things reflected in crystal blue. I can see people and places I've never seen before. It's really neat.
So people and places you've never seen before, and crystal blue, according to the elder, are the tears
of the world.
The world. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Now, I loved this line. Ark, this has been bugging me, but it's about you. Why do the adults dislike you, even though the kids really like you? I have trouble sleeping at night just thinking about that.
There you go, man. That's a tight-knit town right there.
This is what all that stuff we just talked about with hyperactive kids and giving them purpose, that's what really brought that together to me.
Yeah.
You can go talk to the children. They all, Ark, let's play. I wish I could jump as high as you. And they're all excited to see you. And the adults are always yelling at you. And I just, for all the reasons I've already explained, and I won't, continue on, that really tied it up nicely was that line as this being a very intentional thing. And something that I think we're getting the correct kind of reading. I think this was the intent.
I think so.
I think this is what they're trying to say with this character, right?
Also, parents exist here.
Yes.
Ark and El, do they have parents?
Yeah, I mean...
Does Ark has parents?
I think Ark and at least all the other guys back in the Elder's house seem to not. They seem to be orphans of some kind.
Okay, so they live with the Elder.
They live at the Elder's house, yeah.
Okay.
Elle lives at the Weaver's house, so I don't think the Weaver's her mother, but
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It's
just mysterious, and I think that's
very mysterious.
Things. Yeah. This is not like a normal village.
Right.
I think you're meant to believe that. Right. It's very small and closed off. There's things like that to bring into question. Where do these kids even come from? Nobody can leave.
Right.
I kind of made sure to test this in the recording of the footage. When you first leave the house and you try to go down where the gate eventually comes up where you can leave, it's not there.
There's no gate there. That's crazy.
It's surrounded by trees and you cannot leave this place.
Yeah, there is no gate.
They're enclosed in here. Yeah. It's not until the inciting incident happens that the elder even provides a way for you to leave.
Right. And then Ark says, oh, there's a gate.
Yeah.
Like it's like shocking to him.
Yeah.
Now gates, especially like the Tori gates in Japan, they are very, very meaningful. Passing through a gate is like passing through into another world.
Right.
That's just passageways and doorways in general. Some people are more sensitive to that than others. Yeah. That's important that there becomes a gate, like it's like a portal.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
And that it's shocking that it's all of a sudden there.
So this is where you go back into the elder's house. The elder has left, and the guys are trying to convince you to find a way to open the blue door.
Find a way to open it.
And there's one guy on the left who's very against this. Ark, they'll listen to you if you told them no. Like, you're kind of the ringleader of mischief here. Like, they'll listen to you, right? But you do have a choice. You could say no. And if you say no, they'll try to be like, well, then we're not going to tell you what we find down there. Are you still not curious? And you can say, no, I don't care. And if that's the case, they'll try to open it and they'll all get sucked inside. And the door is still closed, but they're gone. And so then it becomes a Ark in an attempt to try to rescue his friends, opens the door, which is a different context than, the elder's gone. Let's break the door down and find out what's down there. Again, you're given a choice.
Interesting.
Even though the character is not silent, like Yuji Horii would have insisted on.
Right.
You still have an influence on this character's personality, and that character can still, to a certain point, act as an avatar for you. So you can still be a little bit more of the goody two-shoes, or if you wanted to play it that way. So it's kind of an interesting balance that Miyazaki wanted to find between having a character who I think we've been saying intentionally was written in a way to be assigned a role by the adults that he breaks to become a hero when he's given the focus, versus letting the player who might not be a mischievous kid, who might be a kid who wants to do good, not forcing them to take on that role if they're uncomfortable breaking the rules or something like that.
So
right?
a typical game like this that wouldn't give you the voice, these things would just happen. He's mischievous. It is what it is. But what I think what I'm hearing from you is that you can be that inner voice in the kid that actually does want to be good, but ends up still somehow doing bad anyways.
Yeah,
that's
maybe misunderstood.
Cool. Sure, exactly.
I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Versus, it was the chicken's fault. It's not my fault. Or, guys, don't open that door. Let's not do that. Oh, crap. Now I have to save them. For very different context.
For this game in particular, that's a very good insight.
Yeah.
That's a very good insight.
I really like it. But I choose, the way I choose to interpret that character, the way I like to interpret it is, he's mischievous, and he breaks the door because that's who he is.
Yeah.
So that's how I typically play this section.
Yeah.
But if you didn't choose that and the guys went in, when you do break down the door, you'll see them frozen as you're descending those stairs.
Oh,
so I always wondered, because it's like there's like 3 flights of stairs that are empty.
Yes.
And I'm like, why are these empty freaking flights of stairs here? Because
I might know
the frozen people that went in the door and got sucked in are there. And Ark will encounter them, go, hey, what happened to you? Like, what's going on? If you chose not to break the door down.
Interesting.
So they'll appear.
But they're already frozen.
Yeah, they're already frozen.
Interesting.
Yes.
The 3 layers, I took the 3 layers to have a different importance as well. We are descending into the underworld for
That's
this part.
true as well.
By the way, in the Kojiki, which is ancient Shinto, it's like the oldest Japanese text that we have. It's from like 800 AD or something like that. It has... it talks a lot about the underworld, and the word is Yumi, or Yomi. Yomi. Yeah. Often Yomi no Kuni, which is the no Kuni. Kuni just means country, so the country or the land of the Yomi, and Yomi is very interesting. In the Kojiki, it's particularly referred to as like a place of degradation, but stagnation. More particularly, that this is a place where it's cold and things are the twin. Like the 2 gods that kind of help make the world in the Shinto mythology, one of them dies. I believe it's the woman dies, and so the man makes like a whole journey to the underworld. And I can't remember the names. I forget the names, but they're almost the same name, but like slightly different in one part. And then, but when he finds his wife finally, she is decomposing, and he decides to seal up the underworld with like a huge boulder, and is like, no, those things are never coming up here. It's over. When you die, that's it. It's done. That is the realm of Yomi. It's just a place of stagnation and degradation. And but it's sealed off so that the Yomi don't come in. There's actually a place in Japan where they say this is where the boulder is, and this is where the entrance to the underworld is. It's really cool. But there are a lot of myths that are actually very similar to some old Greek myths.
Yeah.
Some similar. We're going to talk about Pandora's box here in a bit. But some maybe. Who's the guy who went to the underworld to rescue his wife, but he can't look back, right? If he looks back and sees her, then she stays in Hades.
Gosh dang it.
It's like
I always forget the name.
Is it Orpheus? It is Orpheus. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Izanagi and Izanami. That's it. So Izanagi and Izanami, those are the 2 gods that in the Shinto mythology where Yomi is kind of first introduced.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Orpheus tale, there's some similarities there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, fascinating stuff. And of course, when we go down here, we meet in a box.
Yomi.
There's some interesting stuff here, but I think we have to talk about some of it later. Yeah. Unfortunately, but Yomi is this weird thing. I love when Elle shows up and she's like,
"What is that?
What is that?" And he's like, "I don't know. It doesn't look like it doesn't. It looks harmless." Is what Ark says.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But the name is Yomi and was found 3 layers deep in a blue cave
Yes.
that is just very interesting.
Yes.
But he himself is like fleshy colored. I don't even know. Is there an artistic
There
rendering
is,
of what
and
he actually looks like?
It's not much clearer than what's in the game. Pretty much
Just
the same thing.
The fish
It's like
blob.
a blobby, fishy looking thing,
Yeah.
amoeba-y looking thing.
Kind of makes me shudder a little bit. And the music they play too is
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
silly and
It's pretty
bouncy.
Yeah.
Now, I liked the dialogue leading up to the box, though.
Oh yeah, I took that down.
So you're walking up. He says, "Come, help, get me down."
Yeah.
And you know, you're probably running because most of the time you're running around the game. If you run up to the box, you kind of get hit back.
Yeah.
And it's no. The seal can only be broken with strength and a calm soul.
A calm soul. A calm soul.
Ark has lots of strength and energy and everything like that. What he doesn't have is a focus, a calm soul.
Yeah.
Right? So he can only
needs to
approach
meditate.
the box with a calm soul. Gently now, touch this box.
Yeah.
So the box is giving him the focus almost that these elders and adults should have been giving, but had not.
That's right.
And so the box helps him focus, helps him approach with the calm soul, and Yomi is what comes out of there.
Yomi comes out of it.
Japanese word for the underworld, Yomi.
Yomi. And the box is referred to as Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. We talked about this, and I think Final Fantasy VI has a reference to it as well. Just the box from which all the chaos and death and disease and all the bad things of the world, and this is Greek mythology, of course. It's called Pandora's box even in the Japanese as well in this game. And it's fascinating that they call it that because at the very least, when you open it, all of a sudden everybody kind of freezes. Like the whole town, all the people in the town freeze.
Just like the girl's dream.
Except for the elder. Yes, that girl's dream. And so it unleashes some type of chaos, right? But it's interesting. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, and we're going to talk more about it later. But Elle's lines are the ones that I found the most fascinating. So
When
you
she
go
comes
through a
down.
whole tutorial with Yomi. He shows you all the rooms of the box.
I wanted to touch on this real quick.
Yeah.
So I love this idea. I know not everybody does.
I love the idea.
Yeah.
I just practically had a hard time.
Maybe
with it.
it's a little cumbersome in practice, but I love the idea. The only other game I know of that has done a system and menu, and armor and item menu like this
That's like diegetic.
is Fable 3. And in Fable 3, you kind of go into this place. It's a physical place where your armor's displayed and
That's
your
cool.
weapons are displayed.
I love the idea.
Your map is over here, and you can walk through that physical space and you equip yourself and make your changes to your character or go look at the map. This is how traditional RPGs would put into a list, a menu list, and you just go select the menu to access the thing you want. This game is similar to that in that you actually physically are like moving through this place inside of this box to go grab your armor and your items and things like that. So I like it. I do understand the complaint that it's just less, and as far as utility goes, it's less effective.
Yes, it's less pragmatic. It's certainly not a pragmatic solution.
But
it's an
like
aesthetically nice.
Aesthetically, I love it.
Yeah, it looks cool. It feels cool.
I am all for it. I know other people complain, but that's kind of how the menus in this game work.
Okay, I didn't mind it, but I really avoided going into that box unless I absolutely had to. I just noticed that about myself as I played. Like, I don't want to go back in the box.
Yeah. So after that tutorial ends, I took this line down from Yomi. Well, actually, no. Go to your L stuff first because she freezes. This is after she's frozen.
Good. This is what Elle says. She says, Ark, I'm frightened. I feel terribly scared. I get this feeling that something is starting, something that really frightens me. So please don't leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
That foreboding feeling. She doesn't know what it is, but something is happening, right? Something is changing, and she doesn't know what's happening, but she's scared about it, right? This is. We've talked a little bit before about what you mentioned before, in various contexts about like reaching a threshold of maybe like sleep, like when you're just about to fall asleep. You can consciously kind of bounce off of that threshold there and recognize it. I can't, but I do notice when I am approaching, and if I'm too conscious about approaching sleep, I get this horrible, horrible feeling where I'm just like, I can't sleep. I really just have to clear my mind of everything and not think about it. If I am somehow able to feel myself descending down into sleep, and I'm like, I will wake myself up very quickly because like, for whatever reason, it feels almost kind of like scary. Like I'm laying here, I'm trying to go to sleep, but if I'm too cognizant of the idea of losing consciousness as it's happening, it really doesn't sit well with me. And there are other ways that you can feel that kind of apprehension of like something's going to happen. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Dreams and sleep are a big part of this. But I really felt that here in this game, and her line right there of like, I'm frightened. I don't even know what's happening, but something's changing. What do I do? What do I do? And you can almost see her freezing as almost like a defense response. Like it's happening to her. She isn't doing it herself, right? But there's almost, with the way she's talking before it happens, there's almost a deer in the headlights moment of like, change is happening to a changeless town. And the way the people react is to just stop moving, to double down on the no change, right? Now, I'm not saying they do this on purpose, but but you can almost interpret it as this is how these people live their life. Things don't change; they never leave. All of a sudden, change is happening, and they can all feel it. And so it's an immune response, almost like a defense response of just like, hey, I'm not moving until you figure out what's going on and make me feel better about it, right? Or something like that. But yeah, everybody freezes at that moment. But I really felt her words about being frightened about the change. That really like got to me for some reason.
Because that's right. She does emphasize that. Like something's happening and I'm feeling really scared right now.
Yeah. And, which is common. When change happens, there's a common feeling of foreboding. Oh, I don't know, right? But you can't just freeze. You can't just avoid it. It is change comes for us all. And the best thing you can do is to maybe try to learn to not be so afraid of it. But these are people who've really never experienced it before. Yeah. She spends her whole life weaving all the time, and the same things happen every day. Oh no, the Ark got into trouble again, just like every day, and like this cycle that she lives in. And finally the cycle is being broken. And instead of being ecstatic about it, she is utterly, utterly in shock. She's petrified because of the change. Right.
As everybody gets frozen, of course, Ark's going to look to Yomi, and he's like, hey, it's not my fault. I was just trapped in that place, man.
I just wanted you to let me out, but I can tell you how to fix it.
But I owe you one for freeing me. So I'll tell you a way to get that there girl back to normal.
And once again, change is coming. Everyone's petrified. Your whole town is like frozen in stone. What's the solution to this?
Frozen in crystal.
Okay, crystal. Fair enough.
They say ice. I'm calling it crystal.
Hit tomato.
Exactly.
Okay. Now read the Yomi's next line here.
But I owe you one for freeing me. So I'll tell you a way to get that girl there back to normal. Get out of this village, this cozy village, in fact, and explore the world you live in. You should be able to discover the future that's been invested in the box. Later, and he takes off. This is actually very similar for those who have not seen our Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring analysis. We talked about this at length there.
We did for a while.
So in fear of not just like retreading that whole conversation, I will point you there, but there is something to...
I just love Yomi. Yomi's line says it all. I don't even really need to add much to it. It's just that stale, petrified village of changelessness. What's the solution? Leave and go find the world. It's out there somewhere. You'll find it.
This is something I have found as a lesson at multiple stages of my life, is I tend to go in cycles where I reach a point where for some reason I feel stuck. Things aren't working. And I'm grinding, like trying to work harder to make things work, and it's just not working. I'm spinning the wheels, and comes a point where you don't want to, but you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The only way to grow in life is to get out
of the comfort
of that place where you're comfortable. And that's why it's a cycle, because you get out of it and it's scary and you're learning new stuff, but then you begin to master it.
Yes.
You've gained a new skill.
And you enter
you're
a new
now
comfort
in
zone.
a new comfort
Yeah.
zone. And then you're going to get to a place where you're stagnating again and you got
Yes.
to pivot and get out of it again.
Right.
That's essentially what I think the Lord of the Rings, at least one large part of its theme
There's
is
one,
about.
yeah, one aspect
And
of
that's
it, for sure.
exactly what's being said here by Yomi.
Yeah.
Same thing. If you are at a place in your life where you are feeling that way, nothing's working for me, consider,
Go on an adventure.
consider radically making a change and doing something that you're scared of doing. Something that makes you go, ooh, maybe I'll spin my wheels a little longer, actually. That's when you know it's
Yes.
probably the right thing to jump towards.
Ooh, man.
Because that's where you'll get your most growth as a person and where you'll learn. You know, a lot of people, when they leave to another country, for a language maybe they haven't totally mastered yet. So my wife is from Brazil. She made this choice to come to America, and she had studied English a lot. But then she got here and she realized she didn't know English nearly as well as she thought she did.
Yeah.
And being in a new place where you don't have citizens, you know, all the same
Right,
rights
yeah,
as
yeah.
citizens
Right,
do,
right.
and it's a lot harder maybe to make a living, and you don't even know what people are saying when they're talking to you. Like, that's a
And
scary,
the mountains are freaking huge.
scary thing to do.
Yeah.
And I have like immense respect for people who make that choice to go live in another country where they can't communicate that well. That's
Right.
just such a thing we take for granted in our home countries, right? And but you grow and learn a lot, and you learn really fast.
Right.
I mean, you want to learn a language, that's the fastest way to learn it, is to go be immersed in it and
Just
have no choice but to
jump
learn
into
it.
it.
That's
Yeah.
exactly a parallel metaphor to this. Staying home and on Duolingo and doing it in a comfortable way
Yeah.
is exceptionally slow growth.
Right.
And going and immersing yourself in another country and culture is, you'll advance way faster that way.
Yeah.
That's essentially what Yomi is talking about, I think, in terms of arcs, his next step in his life and as a hero in this story.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
One more thing I want to touch on before we move on to the Elder here and arc going out into the wide world is the Weavers. Real quick, I want to step back to them because as we talk with the 4 Weavers, they just kind of have a little line. I think you actually even read it, but my note right here is about just the art of weaving, just in general, and what it. Well, actually, specifically embroidering, because they say it's the weaver's house, and here's the weavers. Don't destroy the weavings. But when you go and talk to those 4 girls, they say they're embroidering in particular is what they're doing.
Yep.
And this is good, especially when you talk about at the very beginning how it shows painting, the cave paintings,
Yes.
then a canvas painting, then a photograph, and all that stuff.
Yep.
So the weavers are embroidering, which is drawing pictures on thread with cloth. Weaving is very, very cyclical. That's
Yes.
exactly, especially even embroidery.
That's true.
It's like fate and destiny in ancient Greece, which was like the 3 fates. They have the thread. Like the thread was the length of someone's life, basically.
Right.
So there would be one of the fates would kind of like like spin the thread.
Yes.
And then another one would measure it out, and then the third one would cut it. Yeah. And the cutting that's your life.
The end of the life, right.
And so, but embroidery is fascinating because what you do is you take a needle with thread and you put it like in, well, you start at the bottom usually. You go down to the bottom and then you pull it up and then you go back. So you have this plane, this flat surface that's, and you're,
I just got reminded of something. I should not interrupt you. I apologize. It's exactly that scene from Hercules. Remember where they're going to cut Hercules'
and
life,
it turns gold,
and then he's immortal again, so they can't cut it.
I love that movie.
That's the myth you're referring to with the fates.
Dude, I've gone through a full pendulum swing on that because when you first watch it as a kid, it's dope. Then you learn Greek mythology and you're like, that movie had nothing to do with it. And then I have come full circle. That is a great movie. They did it perfect. Everything they did was perfect. You can fight me in the comments if you want. I'm not even going to defend myself. It's just perfect.
But yeah, it just reminded me of that scene because Hercules is going to die in the movie.
Yes.
And the fate,
3 they share one eyeball.
Yeah,
they all share the same eyeball.
Is pulling the thread and is about to cut it, and then I can't cut it because he's an immortal god.
He's a god.
So
that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Those are the 3 fates basically, and that's the idea here. But embroidery is done by taking a needle with thread and a measured out thread, and then putting it up and down into a cloth. So from the plane, you go from the under part of it, and then you poke through up to the top, and then you go back down at a slightly different point.
Yeah.
And you do that 1,000 times,
Yeah.
right? And eventually, if you do it properly, you have created a beautiful picture or words or whatever it is that you're embroidering.
Yeah.
But there's something about the creation of something beautiful through doing something cyclical that involves being underneath something and then moving to the top and then going back down again. But it's the same. But it's the same thread.
Yeah.
There's something cool about that the developers of this game picked up on, and that I think is very emblematic. What's embroidery emblem? Dang it! I was going to make a pun.
There's something.
I was going to make a pun. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. There's something there that is just really cool, and there's something deep about these weavers. There's a reason why the only economy in this town is a mill, which is
in a
thing that just goes forever in a circle, but produces food or whatnot. And then I guess there's like a shop too that you can go buy stuff. I don't know. They don't make
That's
stuff.
more a game utility thing.
Sure, exactly.
Because those guys don't freeze.
They're not characters. Yeah, you're right. They don't freeze.
No.
And then there's like a weaving shop, right? And so but the weavers, it's not. I guess it is technically clothes, but they're embroidering. They're doing all like pretty stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And they're making stuff in a cool way. And there's something to do with. There's something relevant with what they're doing and spending a lot of time dedicating their whole life, pouring their whole souls into taking this one thread up and down, up and down, up and down. And then by the time they've made an image, it is like a reflection of them, of themselves, right? And there's something to that deeper about this game. And I don't know, we'll probably have to come back to this, I think.
Yeah,
but there's something really cool about it.
This is just an exact example of what makes this game so special. It is so thoroughly thought through.
Everything is thought of.
The world and how it is constructed and why is it weavers that were chosen?
There's a reason for this, people. Yeah.
Every single thing is purposeful. Everything in this game. Every line of dialogue, every choice, everywhere. And it all points to one central thing.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the aim of good storytelling. You have something you're trying to say.
You have 1,000 threads.
Everything you construct,
Yeah.
every character you choose, everything that you paint your world with should be pointing in that direction.
Yeah.
Strengthening that, building that up, creating a foundation for that to
Right.
stand on.
Right.
And that's exactly what Terranigma does.
Yeah.
It's
Very
incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So that's excellent. I love that.
So we're doing that. We're already, gosh, this game's so much fun. Okay, so we're already at the part of the Elder, right?
Yeah. So the Elder is like, gosh dang it, friggin' Ark. I told you not to open that door.
I knew this would happen.
And basically says, all right, like, you did this, so now you're the one who has to take care of it, right? Do you want to, like, save the villagers? Of course, like, old man, like, why would you even say that? Of course I want to help. So he gives you your mission, which is to go out into the world to these 5 towers.
And Ark's never seen a tower before.
No, he doesn't even know what a tower is.
And the Elder's like, trust me, you'll know. Like, just go out there and you'll see it. And it's funny because the first tower you come to, Ark is like, so this must be a tower.
Yes.
It's like, you can't miss it.
Yeah. Love that detail. But because you can ask the Elder before you leave about the things he doesn't understand.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's right.
If you ask
He doesn't
him about
tell
the
you
tower,
that much.
He doesn't. He leaves it for you to find out.
Right.
This is important. So when you ask the Elder about the towers, he says, and he kind of pauses, no one here has ever set foot outside. 5 towers await outside, each one controlling living things. That is all. You must seek the answers in the towers yourself. So each tower, all we know about it, they control living things. Okay. Then you can ask the Elder about the box, Pandora's box.
Yeah.
It's from the world that is opposite ours.
Yep.
By freeing it, you upset the natural balance of this world. But its real significance, you will come to learn yourself. So that's all we're given. And then you go out and you see the gate. So this is the gate Gramps was talking about. Outside, huh? Sounds exciting. I'll go anywhere.
Yes, that's right. Now, I didn't know how to take that either. Is it I will go anywhere or I can go anywhere? Like,
I guess technically,
I can do whatever I
if we
want.
were looking at the Japanese, maybe we'd get a...
Because I was thinking you could either interpret it as like freedom. I can do whatever I want.
Or I'm willing to.
I'm willing to go any lengths to save my friends. Like that's... Either one.
I think either one could work. Now this is open. I can go anywhere I want.
Right.
Sweet. Or,
I will go.
This sounds fun. I'll go anywhere.
Right.
I'm up for the challenge. Let's do it.
Sure.
I think both things are true.
All your friends are frozen. Your elder, you've never been outside, and he feels nothing but excitement. This is so funny because when Elle felt change coming, she
was scared.
And Ark has been craving change so bad for so long that when it comes to him, he's like, I'm game, dude. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
And this is something we talked about a lot in the Lord of the Rings thing. In the world, we need both kinds of people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We need people who are more reserved, who preserve the things that are important to preserve, but we also need those people who are willing to say, hey, man, there's probably something better out there.
Right.
Let's get out there and find it.
Yeah.
You need them to go out, take the risks, find all the cool stuff, and bring it back to incorporate and understand that we need to be changing here, but we also can't lose everything that we stand on or the good parts.
Yeah.
And so there's a balance between the progressive mindset and the conservative mindset.
Right.
Neither one is the answer.
Right, exactly. That's maybe the point.
Yes. You need both types of people. And either one having too much sort of influence or power of the culture will destroy the culture.
Right. You either dissolve into the pure freedom of infinite possibilities, or you stagnate into the solidified, rock that can't move.
Now, don't interpret that, ye who cast stones at me, as like you all of a sudden know like my political leanings and stuff. I'm talking in generalities here. Obviously, we can have a political discussion on some other channel that's not this and get into like what I believe about particular things. Okay.
That'll be a blast.
So, the face on the gate. Oh, okay. No, this is where I want to talk about the cover art image.
Oh, good. Because the face on the gate was interesting.
We'll get to the face on the gate in a second.
I
want to talk about the world map
trying to make
here.
sense of that picture, and it just wasn't working.
Okay. So the world map. Well, let's just get your thoughts on that in general.
Oh, dude, it's wild. When you step out of that village, I was not prepared for this. Even because I didn't notice this until I'm going back. I'm playing the game a second time currently. I didn't realize when I first played the game that it showed us that earlier on when you see the 5 little sprites, like the 5 little orbs that kind of go down into the spiral, and then you see them kind of going throughout this world as they kind of drop off into the different castles. You see the ceiling and the roof. You see the world, but I just thought it was maybe a crazy effect. I didn't think that a game developer would dare do what they did because no one has done this before nor since. This is wild. Like, have you seen another game that does this kind of thing where the ceiling is that close?
Certainly like a Mode 7 effect, but not to this extent or to this maybe not in this way.
Doing it on the ground is one thing. Doing it on the ceiling, the roof, the sky, made it felt very claustrophobic. But also, like, I was seeing this thing from just a crazy perspective. It was absolutely wild. Really, really cool. But it took some getting used to for me to figure out exactly how this works. But it was really cool.
Okay. So I am thrilled. You stepped right into what I wanted you to when you described it as the ceiling.
Yes.
So that is how it appears, and that is also how I have perceived it up until now, up until I took a really good look at that art
image. I figured out what you figured out too.
Even in the like Wikipedia and in other people's analysis of Terranigma, they have described the underworld as a torus shape. So essentially like a hollow donut.
Yeah.
That you're on the inside of like a hollow donut.
I think that's
walking around like a halo, like the Halo ring, but like inside of a closed Halo ring or something. That's how it sort of looks as you're running around.
Yes.
That is not actually what this underworld is. It is more, if you're into science fiction, like a Dyson sphere.
Oh, right.
You are in the inside of a hollow sphere. And at the center of that hollow sphere, floating there out there, is this spherical crystalline
blue
orb
Yeah.
thing, right? And so what you are seeing is not the ceiling. You are seeing that crystal orb at the center
So it's the core.
of this world, the core
Okay.
of the planet.
So have you heard of the hollow Earth theory?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to describe it?
That's what this is. This is the hollow Earth theory. That the rotation of the Earth keeps people on the inside of the Earth, and it's hollow, and then you can live on the inside of it as well as the outside. Some people think that we are on the inside, and that the sky is just the draw distance. I don't actually know because I don't believe this.
Yeah.
But some people think it's possible.
So back when I was an insomniac, I'm not anymore, thank goodness. I used to listen to stuff to help me fall asleep. So a lot of soft-spoken type
ASMR
of voices.
or something or other.
I don't love ASMR where they do like the weird effects across I don't like that, but I like to listen to soft-spoken people who are knowledgeable about something talking. And I kind of would fall asleep to that. I'd be soothed by that. One such video, which did the trick for me, was a guy describing hollow Earth theory and how it's true. And it's a hilarious, freaking wacko guy.
You might have shown this to me once.
His voice was very soothing, and it helped me fall asleep.
Hey, man.
So I would listen to it. But yes, the idea is, here's the world, and we walk along the outside of it. Ark is on the inside, walking around like this. And at the center, the core of the planet there, you could say almost the sun of the interior,
that's
is
how
this
they would
crystal orb.
But that's interesting that you called it a sun. That's crazy because that means that in their world, the sun never sets.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, on top of the artwork, the key art, the box art of the game and the start screen showing this, because you see Ark standing on a tower, and you see other towers that are kind of at these
in
weird
different angles,
and you see at the center this blue orb.
Right.
On top of that, when you are walking around, if you pay attention to that blue ceiling, it is reflecting what is underneath it. So if you walk near the lava, and the lava has some animation and fluidity, you will see that reflected blue in the ceiling, which is not the ceiling, it's this crystal. And the mountains, the crystal mountains are the terrain is reflected in the blue part at the top of the screen. So that is the crystal sun of this underworld reflecting the world as you're moving through it.
Wow.
So it is not a torus, it is a hollow sphere. So it can be a little hard to parse that just by sort of looking at a surface level of how it looks while you're walking, because it does look like a ceiling.
Yeah,
but it's not.
The camera angles and whatnot.
It's not. So that's what the underworld actually is.
Okay.
Right.
It's like you can never get rid of your first impression when you first see it. And it's just like how wild it is. Your brain's trying to make sense of it. And wherever you arrive there, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to kind of like get a new perspective on
reframe it a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool though. I like that.
Yeah, but next time you guys are playing the game, look at that. You'll see the reflection in the crystal blue above.
Nice. So Ark also, right before we go out, when the elder starts saying you got to leave the village, Ark says, "What is outside the village?" ?
Yes.
That was a big moment for me too, where I was just like, "Oh my gosh, you haven't." Has he never even asked that question before?
They never even considered there was such a place.
It has never even been conceived in their minds that there could be something outside of wherever they are. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so fascinating.
All right, so let's go to the face on the gate. So you approach the first tower, and the gate says, "I am the guardian. What business have you here?" This guardian appears multiple times in each of the towers, especially when you get to the top. So he's like a guardian in a cape.
Is that the same as the face on the door?
I believe it's the same guy.
Okay.
I believe it's the same character.
Okay.
The guardian, right? The guy who is testing you as you ascend these towers and solve the puzzles and prove your worthiness to access what the towers have, which is control of living things.
Right.
We've been told that before.
Well, it's a big deal.
Yes.
Right. It's a
really
big deal. So, yeah, they got to make sure that you're up to the task.
So, I am the guardian. What business have you here? You can choose save friends or step aside. I chose save friends because at this point, that's how I interpret Ark. Ark is given a focus now.
Well, once all of his friends are frozen,
Yeah.
he's lost his.
He
punk
really is a good
side.
kid. He's not a punk. He's been given the role of punk, but in his heart, he's not.
Right.
So I chose save friends. The people of the village have been frozen. What do I have to do? Tell me. He says, then step forth into the tower. Within wander countless souls of living things.
That's right.
Reach the uppermost floor and gain the power to control the world. Ark, will you test your fate? So that is essentially what these 5 towers are.
Yeah.
They are tests. You encounter souls within. They give you hints about how to solve the towers, the puzzles in the towers.
And also, in addition to the souls that kind of tell us stuff, I think these monsters are all also wandering souls.
They are all souls turned into monsters. This will be something else we will definitely revisit, probably around chapter 3, like you said.
It's going to be a long chapter, man.
They mention that the monsters are souls that have been transformed into monsters.
Yeah.
One of the souls says here, I am a wandering soul. Living things have been transformed into monsters.
Yep.
Like you have saved me, save the others. I also wrote the Ark is toasted animation is hilarious.
That was funny, dude.
I love all the animations in this game.
They're so good.
The animation's one of this is like peak SNES level animation. All of Ark's attack animations, his climbing animation, diving into the box. Ark is toasted. Like all of these things are so expressive of his personality. We talked about that last episode, so I won't retread that too much. But I just have to say, this game is visually incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Not only for the time, but even now, it's just amazing. It's probably my favorite SNES game from a graphics standpoint.
Oh, interesting. You know what? Because that would probably be FF6 for me, but you might actually. This one might even be.
Those
better
are
than
all in the same league.
Yeah,
obviously Chrono Trigger, Donkey Kong Country, Terranigma, Final Fantasy VI. They're all in the same tier. Mario RPG. They're all in the same tier. But for me, Terranigma sort of takes the cake.
I love how when his burnt face, his eyes are looking in different directions. It's like he really got jacked.
He got jacked badly.
It's awesome. Man. It's wonderful.
So
are
we gonna get to the tops of the towers and that symbolism now, or is there stuff before that
there's
you wanted
nothing
to go
before
over?
that I wanted to talk about. Well, actually, there is, but it's all relevant because it's just the number 5.
Okay.
We have encountered the number 5 many times up to this point. So the beginning of the game, we at the start screen, right? We drop down into the abyss, and there's 5 orbs, right?
Yeah.
That kind of are there, and they go into 5 towers. Each tower, if you look, they have 5 layers going up to the top. So there's a very intentional 5 happening here. The inner sanctum here is the place that you gain access to once you pass all of the trials, right?
Yeah.
You're deemed worthy. You then step into it. It is a pentagon, right?
Yes.
5 sides, and then a pentagram, like a star in the middle, 5 points, right? So the number 5 is just being blasted at us.
And there's 5 doors in there that I think are meant to represent the 5 gates from the towers to this place.
And then to resurrect the 5 continents above, above, so below, something like that. So but it's all 5. Everything's dealing with the number 5. So I took a lot of notes on the number 5 earlier, but I'm just going to jump there now because it's very relevant here. The meaning of 5, the number 5 often represents humanity, as it is associated with the 5 senses and the human form, which if you've seen like Leonardo da Vinci or like Agrippa did that famous image, it's just like Leonardo da Vinci's though, where it's a circle, and then you have the head, the human head on top, and then the legs on the bottom and the arms out. And when a human properly proportioned will make a perfect circle, everything will fit properly within a circle there. But you have the 5 points there. You have the 2 arms, the 2 legs, and then the head, right? And this is important jumping into this chamber because you have the 5 sides, but there's one point that's different from the others. And that's the point at which there's like an angel. There's like a statue of like a figure with wings. And I take it to be an angel. And that is kind of the seat of the mind, right? That's the head, right? The other parts are the functional. You've got the legs and the arms, but the top one is the head, because the number 4 in numerology, just in general, means the earth, right? The 4 corners of the earth, just number 4.
Right.
But when you add the 5th one into it, you add a 5th element. So you have earth, wind, fire, water. That's the 4 elements. But the 5th one is spirit, is what it is. And for the human, it would be mind, intellect, something like that. And so that's why I think this is all the way that the creation of heaven and earth happens here. It actually follows the biblical account, which is kind of surprising. But I think there's also the name Ark. We haven't talked about his name yet.
Yeah.
A-R-K.
A-R-K. Not A-R-C.
Not A-R-C.
Not Resonant Ark.
Not Resonant Ark. Although, there's a lot of biblical themes happening here, actually. Also, the 5 books of Moses. There's a big 5. Like, the 5 is extremely relevant. So I'm going to keep talking about what this means. In the game, the symbolism aligns with the protagonist's journey to restore life and humanity to the world. Of course, the 5 continents as well, but humans are a microcosm of the world. And arcs, the 5 points of Ark's body corresponding to the pentagram, corresponding to the towers, corresponding to the continents, that there is a sense in which Ark himself is a microcosm of the world that he is bringing about, right? In the same way that if you look at Agrippa's picture of the human, standing out there, this idea of a microcosm, macrocosm is very germane to this game.
Yes.
Extremely.
Well, Ark is,
and the
as
word
we're going to
Ark,
find out, Ark is essentially the mind behind this new world being created.
This
the
is
4
something,
corners, if you're going to call the world the 4 corners, at the head of it is Ark in this iteration, in this cycle.
Yep, there's the 4 corners, then there's the spirit.
Then there's Ark's mind.
Because much
leading.
is said about the creation of earth throughout this, but the game is called the creation of heaven and earth, right? There is that 5th element. There's the spirit. There is the heavenly, like the meaning and intent and the will and the imagination behind the 4 corners, right? So that's absolutely true. I also like that the map, as the continents are resurrected, we see it's basically centered on Indonesia. That's kind of where it seems like the camera zooms out from basically Indonesia every time, but it's in line with Japan, basically. It's the Tokyo. So typically we'll see the map where like France and England are kind of like on the middle, like prime, what's it called? Prime meridian, something like that. Well, this map is rotated 100 degrees so that Japan is the continent that's right on, that's in the middle, and everything else is to the east or west of Japan, right? So it's very interesting, especially given that country seems to be proud of the fact that they are the furthest east one, and they see the sun first and all of that. In this game, it's like, no, it's the middle. So interesting change here. The number 5, also in numerology, generally speaking, is a midpoint. So the midpoint is good because that symbolizes balance and the transition between opposing forces. This resonates with the game's overarching theme of restoring balance between creation and destruction. And also you have 0 or 1. I will go with 0 because 5, and then you have 10, right? Which is just on the scale. 5 symbolizes. Most numerology just deals 1 through 10. When you're talking about what does a number mean, and it's like 46, it's like people will come up with things. There's things out there on the internet. It's just less like related to the human experience, right?
Did you say 46?
Yeah. Does that mean something?
As in 46 billion years?
That might have been where I got it. I thought I just made up a number, but I was probably referencing this conversation. What does it mean? Okay, 76. I don't know, something else. Basically, the only way to understand bigger numbers is to boil them down into smaller numbers. Right? So what does 50 mean? Well, it's 5 and 10. It's 10 5s or 5 10s, right? So it's not 50 as in its own thing. It's you take the symbolism of 5 and 10 and you combine them, and that's the symbolism of 50. Anyways, so that's a common thing. But if we're going to fulfill, the scale, the counting scale in a base 10 system, all the way up to 10, 5 is the midpoint, right? So Ark represents this middle between the fulfillment of the numbers, which is 10 in a base 10 counting system, and either 0, which is interesting to think about, or 1, which is the first number, right? 1 through 10. But if you go to 0, then you have maybe the theme of destruction. You have the nothing, just the 0, nothingness. And then 10, you have everything, full. All the digits are represented there now.
Right.
And 5 is the middle point. So anyways, that's what this numerology means. And when Ark enters into this room, it's really, really cool because you've got constellations going on the side, and the constellations are cool too. So when we enter the pentagon-shaped room with the pentagram in the middle, there's a blue orb that's spinning, and the constellations revolving around. There's animals, there's humans, and then there's also scales for like justice or law. I would assume it's like the laws of the heavens that govern everything else, the invisible, unseen world, right? So you're seeing all of this stuff. And then there's the angel at the top, which is the microcosm, macrocosm thing. The first scene that we get is, tell me if I'm onto something with this.
Okay.
We see a mountain with snow. It's Eurasia, right? And it's also no coincidence that the first people who are unfrozen are the weavers.
Yes, the weavers
It's not
are the
just
first.
El, it's the
All the
people
weavers.
weaving the tapestry of life, like the tapestries of the world. They are the ones that are unfrozen. But what happens here, because I had the hardest time figuring this out, but I think I've got it. We zoom out from Indonesia, basically, and then you see the world, right? And then it keeps zooming out until you're essentially seeing a spiral galaxy, right?
Yep.
Just like a white galaxy. Then you see the continent. They're making very clear that we are not on Earth when this is happening. This is happening basically outside of time and space, basically, in a way. And this is my read on this, that it's not just that we zoom out and then the continent shows up. We zoom way further out than is necessary. We are outside of the known like galaxy at this point, and we're looking back, and then you see a continent, right?
Yeah.
What's up with that? So what is my thinking of this is that the music, the first part of creation takes place in the mind, outside of Earth, superimposed on a galaxy or something among the stars. A world is first imagined and then formed. The formation of this world isn't, and according to this definition, the formation of this world isn't predetermined. Ark is deciding the shape of these continents. He isn't just bringing up things that were already there. He is imagining them, and then through the power of the tower and whatever's going on here with the constellations, that whatever he has thought of way outside of Earth becomes manifest on Earth itself. What do you think of that? Is that crazy?
This is a direct quote from Miyazaki. We read it last week. About we create our own world. I mean,
there you go.
This is exactly what he was trying to, the idea he was trying to instill.
That's so cool. So this is Ark's unique world.
100%.
So anyways, that's where I'm at with this at this point. That's the symbolism of this whole room, that this room has the cyclical power of heaven specifically, that he then kind of enters into via the mind, and then his imagination is free to do what it wants. And he then causes the manifestation of these continents according to what he thinks and what he wants. And it's the fortitude of his strength, and it's not just how strong he is, because remember with the box, it's a calm soul. Calm your soul and be strong. And that's what the Guardian is testing as much as anything. It's not just, I know the gameplay. I believe what is supposed to be conveyed here is that he is exercising both temperance of soul and strength, right?
Yes.
And so even though it manifests in the game as you just jump and do the dope, like, kicky attack and kill everything all the time, that you are also tempering your soul as well.
I mean, I think it's both too, because it's not just combat. I mean, you're using your mind.
That's true.
To
There's
solve
puzzles. Especially, I think some of the later towers have more complex puzzles.
It's a test of the mind.
That's true. That's
and
good.
It's a test of the
This
body
is good. And then when passing that test, you enter into the realm where heaven and earth kind of can meet.
Right.
And it's so cool. It's so cool. I absolutely love it. That's my read, though. Do you have anything?
No,
that you
I think that's great.
Okay.
I think the only thing that I wrote that I might say here, when you go back and talk to some people in the village, because each time you restore one of the continents, I guess we can just list how they're resurrected in order. So Eurasia is first.
It's a beautiful tune. But you have to experience it. I don't even know what to say about it.
And I want to touch on that too.
Experience it, and I can't really talk about it other than to say it's really cool.
That's the part I want to talk about.
And these are long sequences too.
The second one is South America.
Yeah.
Africa, third. Then we get, I think, North America, and then Australia. And there are also 2 secret continents that you can miss.
They're just hidden.
Yes.
I didn't know this. I did find one on accident.
Yes.
which was
Polynesian.
Polynesian. The other one,
Polynese, yeah.
apparently,
So this is a character limit problem.
Yes.
There's only 8 characters, and in English they had to figure. So a lot of names are weird.
yeah,
But
it's
Polynese
and S America.
Yeah, and S American and American.
Yeah, but there's another one that
Mu.
I didn't know about.
It's Mu, and Mu is a reference to Illusion of Gaia. It's a
okay.
place in Illusion of Gaia. So both of these places are just secret areas where you can get some extra
Like items
armor
or-
and
okay,
equipment
cool.
and things of that nature.
Cool.
Some of like the legendary ones.
Yeah.
So if you don't do it, those contents don't appear in the game. So you either do it now or you miss it. I don't think it's hugely important because you are just given the most powerful armor and weapon in the game right before the final dungeon in the course of the story. It's just if you're kind of trying to go for a 100% playthrough or to unlock everything, which is something else I'm going to touch on later because some people have found that frustrating in this game because it can be quite cryptic and hard to find out sometimes where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to do.
I will say there were several times in Chapter 3 where I needed to use a
You
guide.
got lost.
And, and through the use of a guide, I also discovered more things that I should have done that I maybe didn't do.
Yeah.
And so, if you're in Chapter 3 and you're stuck, use a guide by all means.
Yeah.
I would never, and I mean never, have figured out some of the things that you have to do in order to, progress in that chapter.
So anyways, I wanted to at least mention Mu and Polynese. Those are the 6th and 7th continent. But what I really want to talk about is how beautiful the resurrection scenes are themselves. So the first one, like you said, it shows kind of just a snowy landscape.
Yeah, mountains.
Right?
Yeah,
and it's the music. It's the image and the music in tandem that create this kind of quiet moment that come on the back of this incredibly mysterious room of resurrection.
Yeah.
And just the use of symbols and visuals. And it goes all the way back to what I said in the video that I wanted to lead into this game with when I gave the quote from the director of Dune and Blade Runner 2049. Denis Villeneuve. Yeah. Where he says, I don't remember a movie with a line of dialogue. I remember it with a strong image, pure image and sound. That's the power of cinema. If you had shown me that quote when I was 20, I would have been like, "What? Come on, man! That's elitist." Because I've always wanted to be a writer, and I have a great appreciation for beautiful language and poetry. In particular, older forms of English to me are just so beautiful. Yeah. I just love reading biblical age language, like English.
15th, 16th century,
There's something about having a way with words, being able to express ideas in a way that shows wit and just like a particular style that you created to take feelings, emotions, and ideas that are abstract and that don't conform very well to systems and language.
Yeah.
Right? Language is so limited, but those who have mastered language and finding exactly the right words to express what they are trying to convey, that I just find so I'm so appreciative of people who take the time to find those words. There's an art to it. There's definitely an art to it. And so I have always appreciated good writing. It's why we talk about it so much on this channel and why I focus on it so much in terms of what is good dialogue, what is good prose, what is good exposition, what's not. So you show me that quote when I'm 20, I'm going to take offense to that as someone who's an aspiring writer. But the older I've gotten, the more I've come to agree with it. The idea that less is more and that, sure, you can sit here and struggle to find all the right words to describe it, or I can show you a picture and put some music to that, and that is actually almost always going to be more effective than language can be. I've kind of come to the realization, still, as someone who's an aspiring writer, still as someone who loves language, that words are almost never sufficient to really explain what I'm feeling and thinking. And often music gets it across so much better. It's just so much more intuitive. I can feel that in the music. And it's you're stepping out of that linguistic left side of the brain and getting into that more just sort of ethereal, spiritual, intrinsic, intuitive side.
Yeah.
Where you can just feel it. You're not calculating it, you just synchronize.
Yeah.
And there's
It's almost
something
like flow or something.
Yeah, something about the way these resurrection scenes are depicted and the music that accompanies them, that the spirit of Terranigma lives.
Yeah.
It lives in those moments.
Yeah.
And it really is telling to me that that's what Miyazaki wanted people to see more than anything when he was asked in the interview, what do you want people to see in this game? The resurrection scenes. I can't explain what my game is about as well as I can show you in those resurrection scenes.
Right.
And I feel that from them. And so the first one is the snowy mountain landscape.
Yeah.
The second one shows some lightning first,
Ah,
and
the South America.
it's rain
Yeah.
on a rocky terrain with a river running through it.
Right.
Right. And it is South America, so you can assume this is the Amazon, right?
You can assume, except there's no vegetation, but that was a
yeah.
limitation of the software they used to create the images.
That is true.
Although, hold on. The vegetation intentionally comes later.
Yes,
I
that's
forgot
true
about
as
that.
well.
I
That's
forgot
true
about
as
that.
well.
Because
So
that's the biblical
It probably
creation account.
is a limitation,
Okay.
but at the same time, they wouldn't have put vegetation in there because of what we're going to talk about in Chapter 2.
Okay.
So Africa, the third continent to be revived, you see the moon over the horizon,
beautiful.
and kind of just the stars in the night sky.
A lot of these images, while they do talk about the resurrection of the continents with an Earth focus, they all are incorporating a good bit of sky, of heaven,
the heaven
in their images
the heaven
as well.
and the earth.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
It's
that's
almost
the
always 50-50.
title of the game in Japanese. And then the next one, North America, is you get like this time lapse of stars over a landscape.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I think this is the one that looks almost like the Grand Canyon. It's like this giant sort of
Oh, yeah.
just canyon, basically, with like a time lapse. Yeah, in fact, it is that, because the last one is that like mesa
It's
mountain,
Australia.
yeah, which is Australia,
With the time
with
lapse.
the time lapse of the sky,
It's
and
probably
a
the most
sun setting and rising over
Yeah.
and over again.
What I love about these, they take, what's like 2 minutes of just entering the chamber, listening to the music. Nothing's happening, but the sense of mystery keeps growing.
Yeah.
Right. And then slowly the orb kind of like descends down. And it's like, what is happening in this moment? Why is this taking so long? And at least in part, it's just, Ark is just contemplating. And because he is, I am too.
Yes.
And as you can't help but do that as you watch the constellations kind of like move around him like that. Just the abstract platonic forms themselves almost, just like, what is this? What's happening here? And then we cut to a scene that plays out for a long time. And especially with Australia, you're right. It's like multiple days. You're seeing, I think, at least like 2 full day and night cycles.
It might even be more than that.
It might even be more. And the crazy thing about that is that each, like the longer the image stays on the screen, the more it is telling me. I feel.
Yeah.
I actually feel like they're not long enough now.
Yeah.
When I first saw the first one, I was like, this is crazy. It's taking a long time. I still appreciated it, but I didn't know I was waiting for it to end. Now, upon this like second, I'm going through the game a second time now, and I'm like, this scene could have been longer, and it would have told me more. It was on the verge of telling me even more new information, despite the fact that it isn't changing. It's the same kind of thing, just with a cyclical, like rain or the moon or the sun, or there's a cyclical aspect happening here. But each time, even though it still looks the same, it's telling me something different.
Right.
And I almost want to just stay there and look longer, and because it's telling me more and more and more. And the music is a big part of that.
The music's freaking amazing in this game, guys.
But
it's one of the best soundtracks in the history of video games. I remember, in fact, when this game came up and I gaslighted the whole audience into voting for this, I was sitting down in the living room and I was just looking into my false fireplace.
Yes.
And I had headphones on. I was listening to the ending credits theme of this game and looking into that fire. And again, that intangible intrinsic meaning of the game hit me. Something I can't explain with words very well.
Right.
And I just knew this game is one of the most beautiful games that have ever been made, and the message of this game is so incredible. I have to talk about this. Kaysen has to play this, and we have to do a podcast on this. And so I started my manipulation and my
planting seeds
plan to get to where we are now. And the music's just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
Now, there's a couple lines of dialogue from characters as they become unfrozen. So each time some of the souls return after the tower's over and people kind of come back.
Yeah.
And you go talk to them. And there's some interesting things. So the Weaver says, "What? Something's odd. I feel strange. I feel as if I awoke from a long sleep to an unfamiliar place."
That's right. That's right.
Change
just happened for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah. I had a strange dream. I was in a busy town with huge buildings, but even there I was embroidering as I do now.
See, the dreams. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to get back to it, but this is so interesting.
L says, "Ark, while I was barely conscious, I came to understand that it was you who saved me. I know now for whom this weaving is intended.
Yep.
Ark, just as you fought to save us, I too will help you. I will weave my soul into what I weave for you, Ark."
This is so good. It's she was weaving this whole time. She's been weaving without a point, without a purpose, without knowing why she was doing it, right? And Ark just kind of showed her the reason for the weaving, right? She now has a reason to weave, which makes her all the more excited to carry it out.
Yeah.
You know, the continents being resurrected is it like without a purpose behind it, without an imagination, without something that was, you know, without a heaven with the earth. We'll just put it that way. It's difficult to know what the earth is for.
Yeah.
Right. It's like there isn't much of a point. But once you finally gain that sense of purpose, this invisible, you know, something or other that just kind of fills you with purpose, then it's like now you keep doing what you were already doing. She wasn't not weaving before. She's still weaving. But now she's doing it with a purpose, which makes, you know, her life all the more meaningful.
Yeah.
It's also it's interesting to note too that with Polynice and Mew, it's interesting that they added those two
Yes.
islands. And that because I remember when I did the Polynice one, you still hear the song, but he doesn't go into the chamber, right?
Right.
You hear the do 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 do
Yeah.
do, but it just shows the map, and it's like, oh, Polynice is there somewhere now.
Right.
But that brings the total up to 7, which is interesting. I need to talk about the name Ark now. This is extremely important. Okay. I was actually a note I had at the very beginning, and I'm like, I put this off for far too long. So, Ark is it's in the Bible. There are 2 arks. There's Noah's Ark, and then there's the Ark of the Covenant.
Right.
And the fact that he finds a box with this connection to the outer world, that is interesting. It's the concept of an ark, and that there is a container that is by virtue of it existing creates this conduit. There's this connection between purpose and reality, maybe between like heaven and earth. And Ark is a microcosm himself, but he also carries with him this box, right? This mysterious box that's got all this stuff in it, and this weird animal, fleshy, weird fish creature. It's like Goldine, but like weirder, like mixed between Webafleba or Wabafay and Goldine. Okay, so, and Ditto. It's kind of like
That's
a
true.
Ditto thing going
That's
there.
true.
So he is named after the Axis Mundi of the Bible. And there's a lot to be said about it. There is a lot to say. The way that the resurrection happens, and especially as we kind of go up onto the world, it's similar to Noah's Ark, where there's a cycle of something happening with the Ark in terms of Noah, which is there's a thing, and then there's not a thing, and now there's the thing again. And Noah's Ark is the thing that preserves the seed for the new world to then be carried out according to this new law, this new rule, right? Which is really cool. And then the Ark of the Covenant also is just the center of meaning around which like a whole religion and culture for thousands of years basically evolved, right? Or revolved is what I meant to say, revolved. And Ark being a microcosm of the earth itself and the reason for which it comes about in this, in what we're seeing here with the resurrection of the continents. And he is basically the Ark that is being then placed onto the earth. And he carries with him this little box, this infinity box that he can fit into, and out of which it's a conduit between the not just heaven and earth, but also heaven, earth, and below earth. Right?
Yeah.
There's like a multi-layered connection here. That's what Ark is and means, and it's the center of meaning out of which the life can have its can live, move, and have its being, or whatever, live, breathe, and have its being. And that is Ark. That's who we're playing as, like an embodied version of a temple. Basically, is what he is. He is a temple, and also these towers. When he enters into that room, that's the Holy of Holies right there. It's Pentagon. I know it's not. The dimensions are all screwy. It's not the Bible. Miyazaki isn't just like doing. He's not doing what Xenogears did.
Right.
But he is borrowing some themes from the Bible to tell his story in a way that is so unbelievably unique. But yeah, he's a mobile temple. He's like a tabernacle. He's just going around.
Yeah.
And that's Ark.
Yeah. I think that's a really keen insight, and we will definitely revisit that later in the game for sure.
Also, there's this idea of the weaving of the veil of the temple, which was a big thing. It has to be done in a certain way with certain materials. It's for protection and other things. And even later on, there's a tradition that like Mary, the mother of Jesus, was a temple veil weaver herself while she was like gestating while she was weaving the body of Jesus, she was also weaving the veil of the temple. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on here between it's not just Ark, it's El and Ark.
Right.
There's something really interesting happening
like
there.
that quote earlier, boys and girls made a promise in the life before. It all comes together.
It's very interesting.
We're just setting it up, guys.
Yes.
We're just setting it up.
So then we come to El. Have we read El's part yet? You did read it.
So I read
while she was
first
unconscious.
part, but we haven't done the part where she weaves the thing for him yet.
Okay.
There's something here I want to read first before that.
Okay.
So the sick girl in the bed, remember, who had the dream?
Oh, yeah.
She says, Ark, I saw another dream. I had a dream of meeting you, Ark, somewhere I've never seen. Isn't it nice? I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I'm just trying to emphasize every single one of these lines is pointing towards a payoff. Every single one of them. Okay, so then we come to L, because you have to get the crystal thread, which is in Tower 4,
That's right.
I think.
Yes, it is.
And you take that to L, and she is going to weave you protection that will help you get into the 5th and final tower, because the Guardian basically throws like a spell at you that ejects you from the tower every time you try to enter it. So she's going to create a crystal cape that will protect you from that so you can enter the final tower and resurrect the final continent. So she says, okay, go rest. It's going to take me a little while. Come back tomorrow and I'll have it done. And I love how Ark wakes up in the middle of the night, sprawled out on the ground.
It's so funny, dude. It's so
drooling.
Funny. Yeah.
You go into the next room. I just thought that was funny. One of the guys is laying on the floor. One of the guys in the bed.
That's right. They don't have enough beds for the people in this house.
So the guy on the floor, you go talk to him. Groan. The floor is hard. Yeah. And you go talk to the guy in the bed. Comfy. Okay. So you make your way over to the weaver's place. She's through the night. She's weaving all night long. This crystal cape, working
by candlelight. It seems.
Yeah. And you enter the room, and she says, "Crystal cape, I pray to you. I beseech you to shield Ark from harm. And I pray, please don't take Ark far away." And then Ark walks in. "What's the matter? You can't sleep? Your cape is almost finished. I'll be done tomorrow. Ark, please go get some rest. But when this cape is made, I get this feeling Ark will go away. You won't do that, will you? And there you have two options there. You can say, I can't make any promises, or you can say,
Right.
of course not.
Right.
I choose, of course not.
Because as far as we knew,
Yeah. You're exploring the world, right?
Yeah.
This is what the elder wanted. All the people are coming back.
and then we'll come back when we're done.
So he says, what are you saying? Who said I'm going anywhere? Yes, I did see the world outside here and learned the world is huge.
It's huge.
But I love this village because Elle lives here. I actually really liked
That they're third
they
person-
speak to each other without using
say
pronouns like you.
Yeah. Well, it's very Japanese.
Yeah, they're saying each other's names.
Yeah.
This might at first feel like it's awkward in English, but I like it. If I were to retranslate it or something, I wouldn't want them to change that because it gives me a sense that these people are different from normal people in the world. This little village has its own really different, weird culture and its own
unique.
mannerisms and manner of speaking and things like that. And so I would kind of like that to remain as a differentiator of these people and their way of relating and speaking to each other versus maybe how people in the real world would speak. So I kind of like it, even though that might be more technically correct in Japanese than it would be, and maybe it's a little too literal of a translation, so to speak. But I like it anyways.
Well, I don't think they do it elsewhere in the game.
They don't. I
So
don't think
it seems to be a relic of this particular village.
So he says, but I love this village because Elle lives here. I'm not leaving. And she says, thank you, Ark. Those words are enough. There is still time before dawn. You should go get some rest. Come see me again in the morning. I'll wait up for you. So you go get the cape. The cape is what allows you to get in. You resurrect the final continent.
She wove in a prayer to protect Ark from adversity, something like that.
Yeah.
Like she uses the word weaving in reference to the prayer as well.
Yes,
so
right.
that also opens the door for us to realize that weaving is very metaphorical in this game, and that the idea of weaving can also be applied to a lot of different other things.
So after you have resurrected the final continent and you come back to the village, there's some interesting dialogue from some of the NPCs. One person says, hey, you somehow look much more grown up all of a sudden. This is kind of what I was talking about. I like him being basically as mischievous as possible and as much of a punk as possible because he grows, and he grows really fast as soon as he gets his purpose and his focus. And they're noticing it right away. Hey, you look more grown up all of a sudden. One of the little girls says, Ark, you're going away, aren't you? Just like before.
Yeah, I remember
that. That was really interesting to me.
It's a very interesting
Just
one.
like before. What do you mean just like before? This place was closed off. No one could leave before.
Well, the elder said that. And if you remember when the elder said that, he said, you ... I mean, nobody has ever left before.
Right.
Obviously the elder's hiding something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Another person says, woo, maybe I got a cold. Everything seemed like it turned blue. Important color, that blue color.
Very, very important.
And then this one, Ark, I saw you reflected in crystal blue. You were fighting monsters with all your might. You were great. Good stuff. Now we go back to the elder. The elder says, Ark, you have succeeded. You have witnessed the resurrection of continents at each of the towers. However, it is only the land that is revived. Life remains unborn. Ark, I wish to show you something. We'll go outside. So you leave with him. There's this big crevice, this hole in the ground, right? Elder says, this crevice leads to the surface. It is a strange world, an infinite pool with island continents. It was once a world vibrant with abundant flora and fauna, but all life ended on the surface, leaving only the ravaged land. I wish to see the surface world's resurrection for the people here. And Ark's response is awesome. He says, wow, that's some story. I'm trying to come to grips with it. You're thinking grand, Gramps, though. I have to hand it to you. He says, listen, Ark, you shall go to the surface and revive the world. Once you venture across, you cannot return until your duty is done. Have you any unfinished business? So for me, I got to go back and say goodbye to Elle.
Yeah, so of course.
I can't leave with, I suppose you could. You could say, nah, I'm good, and you just jump in.
Right.
But nah, I was going to go back.
Yes, of course.
So the goodbye scene with Elle is really sad.
Yeah, she won't.
She won't even see you. She won't even open the door.
Nope.
Don't.
She won't even really look in your direction.
No.
Even
She's
in
looking
the room.
the other way.
Yeah.
Don't. Please don't come in. I'm sorry, Ark. I can't see you now. I heard you're going far away. I have to send you off with a smile, but I can't. I don't know why. I can't stop crying. But Ark will come back safely one day. I will wait until that day. I'm sure I can greet you with a smile then. Ark, for just a short while, goodbye. That's it. So you go back to
very good dialogue.
It's great.
Well,
it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's amazing. Go back to the Elder. Some advice before you depart. The crystal spear you obtained in Pandora's box. I guess we failed to talk about that.
Oh yeah. Well, we hear a voice also.
Yes.
And then we approach it.
Yes. In fact, I took that dialogue down.
Okay.
I might as well read that now. So when you're in the box getting the tutorial from Yomi, you approach the crystal spear itself, and it talks to you. And it says, Ark, the seal has been undone. Can you hear me? I have awaited here for someone who could use me at will. Humans, upon gaining intelligence, will learn of my existence. Using me, humans will gain power and expand their world. And time will revolve as it ever has. Like others before you, you have opened this box and met me. Have you the courage to use me? You can say yes or no to that. Then take me in your hands exactly as your soul desires. So this crystal spear, also one of its benefits is it will heal you slowly over time.
Yeah.
So you don't have to use bulbs, they're called this game, but healing restorative items.
Yeah, also if you go back to the Elder, he'll heal you.
Yeah.
Or if you go to sleep.
Yeah,
same
exactly.
thing.
So if you just stand there for a while, the spear will slowly heal you. Yeah. That is not how it works in the surface.
No, the Elder mentions that too.
So he says, the crystal spear you obtained in Pandora's box, it is effective only under crystal blue. That is in our world. On the surface, you must use a healing bulb to regain strength. Do not be stingy with items in desperate times. Such are the secrets behind longevity. Though you will face perilous challenges, never shall you quail. Enough. Be off with you.
Yeah.
So then you jump into the crevice, and it's the same vortex from the beginning when the souls entered into the vortex into this world and then went to the 5 towers. Same vortex.
It's the same vortex, except when you get to the end of it, it's white instead of
dark.
Still black. Yeah.
Yes.
I guess the idea being we're on the surface now.
Yep. The light side and the dark side, just like we talked about in the intro movie.
The items are to be used, not hoarded. That advice is very good for me. I hoard. That's just what I do.
A lot of people do.
I always assume I want to use the item at peak moment, at peak optimal time for everything always, which means I end up finishing the game often with lots of things that I never use because I don't know when the peak moment is. Yeah. That's great advice for me. I did not follow it. However, it kind of has like game importance as well. There's a theme. I'm only going to bring it up right now. It happens a little bit later, but is it like a carpenter or somebody? He says every nail, every tool is made to be used.
Yes.
And every nail, everything that exists has a use and gets used one way or the other. It doesn't matter. That there's something like that here, that all of these items have a purpose and that don't forget what their purpose is and use them when their purpose arises instead of trying to hold off and save them for some other thing, which ends up making them obsolete because then you never use them. Yep. There's some game thematic significance to that as well. And we also hear about it even later on in the game too, where it's like, even people are like this. Like everybody fits in and has their own, purpose and use, I guess. Yeah. And so items are no different. It's funny because it's just a little like telling you as the player. I'll bet you in game testing they were like, people are freaking hoarding their items. We got to find a way in the game to tell them
not to do that.
Stop. Use the items, man. They're there for you to use.
That's what they're for.
And so they put it in there, but it also kind of high fives some of the some thematic elements in the game as well. So I thought it was pretty clever and really fun.
I'm at the end of my notes.
I am at the end of mine as well. We may have skipped a thing or two, but honestly, we're probably going to talk about them later. Yeah. So
on to chapter 2.
Yeah.
Which we will talk about next week. So for next week,
very, very fun.
Finish chapter 2. And we will reconvene at that point to discuss. Hopefully you've enjoyed this thus far. We'd love to hear some of your interpretations. This game is very much an interpretive work. One in which you're meant to kind of, think about it, see how it affects you, draw. There's a lot of things left vague.
Yeah, purposefully.
On purpose.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear some of you guys' thoughts and your interpretations on things.
I remember my previous thoughts were about just the idea of weaving your soul into the tapestry. I'm just going to think about it more because I have some ideas, but I think maybe as we go through and discuss more, it'll become more clear what exactly that means.
Yeah, right. Okay.
All right, guys.
See you next time, guys. Have a great week.
Bye.